Disclaimer, we'd like to note before the start of this interview that the opinions about to be expressed by the guest on tonight's Gettin Salty Experience podcast are that of the guest and do not directly or necessarily reflect the views of the host of the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
You're listening to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
Hello, Rob Procaccini, who may or may not have fallen through the dessert table in a drunken stupor on Thanksgiving Day. That's what I heard somewhere. I don't know, though. Could be true. From him.
Did he send us a picture? We need a picture of that.
So he starts his own rumors? I don't know.
I guess so. He asked me how my Thanksgiving was, and I said, I don't know, like 5 dirty martinis in. I was like passed out on my sister's couch. And he said, yeah, well, I was so obliterated, I fell through the dessert table. I'm like, well, it reminded me of, what was it? Is it old school, back to school, whatever it is? He's like, whoa, I like you, man. He falls through the kid's present table.
Oh, I was just thinking of, I know the damn movie, but I can't think of it right now. It'll come to me later on.
Your kids putting stuff on your face again? Like, what are you doing?
No, not this time.
I've never done this before.
Yeah, I wasn't.
What are you drinking?
Dirty martinis I make now. I got a little dirty martini. I'm free tonight. It's just water. Just alot tonight.
Isn't dirty martinis a girly drink?
No. That's
the espresso martini.
Which
is very yummy, by the way.
I was waiting to see how quick it was. Like, no, that's espresso martini. You beat me to it, though.
Yeah.
It's very yummy.
It's Cosmopolitans, Gonzo. That's what he drinks. Cosmos.
Cosmos? Okay.
Yeah. Fuzzy navels or something. I don't know what he's drinking.
Who's drinking fuzzy navels?
Harvey Wallbangers.
Fuzzy navels.
Harvey Wallbangers.
Oh, my boy Ray, Fat Daddy.
Yeah,
Ray. In the house. Welcome back, Fat Daddy.
Chili in the house.
Tilly's in there.
She was in there last time, but she skated for a little while.
Silent?
Listen, she's very busy.
You going turkey hunting at all, or you just deer hunting from now on?
Gobble gobble? No, just turkey. Just gear.
Just turkey? Wait a minute. Was this an accident? Was this an accident picture that you sent me, by the way?
Oh, I probably sent you that by accident.
Yeah, I was like, because I was going over with the chief. I'm like, he's like, that's not my picture. I'm like, maybe Lou has something in mind for this, why he wanted to shoot it.
Sick man. It's a sick man.
Where is my venison hot dogs? How long?
At the butcher. They're getting processed.
Processed? All right. Well, we got 2 of them, right? You got 2, don't you?
Oh, I do have $2, yes.
Right, $2. There's plenty to go around, Gonzo.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my other stuff. I don't know if that's going to come down.
What, the stuff that he made on
behind him right there? Yeah,
that's printer.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I sent it to Coob. I sent it to Coobs.
Absolutely not.
No.
Yes.
He did not.
He said that again. Yes, in his high man voice.
Yeah. Yes, I sent it.
I sent it to you, Dick.
You have everything.
I don't have anything. Do you see it hanging on my walls anywhere? I don't see it. Gone.
Lying.
You dick.
It's definitely sent. It's gone.
Yeah?
It's not here. Yes.
Somebody looked at it
Maybe
like,
you want to track it or something. I don't know what you're doing down over there.
High quality merchandise right here. Give me the merch.
Keeping it all for himself.
Yeah,
I don't know what he's doing. Anywho.
All right,
he definitely has it, Gons. Believe me, it's that.
I swear to God. I swear my old man, I don't have it.
Trust me.
Oh, speaking of my old man, I'm talking to my mother in the car today, and she tells me, oh, that the Italian fellow's coming on tonight, right? I'm like, yeah, the Italian fellow, Didomenico, right? I'm like, yeah. I'm saying to myself, she goes, I remember him. I'm saying to myself, you do not remember him. How could you remember him? He's close to our age. He's, first thing I pick up, I look at his timeline. It says his father worked with my father in 291. I'm like, you dick.
Yeah.
I'll never doubt you again, mommy.
Remember, they have those elephant brains, man.
Oh, my God. But anywho, all right, let's get through some commercials. This guy tells a good story, man. This chief.
Yeah, he's on. He's excited to see it. Yeah.
He's everything I would never was on the fire department. Smart, good studier.
I'm smart.
Good stories. He's got a lot of good stories too, man.
We'll see how he goes. He's got them all in chronological order. Nope. You got to put this over here. You got to put that picture this way.
Oh, good. You know those Chiefs.
All right, here we go from New Jersey Fire.
Established in 1930, And under the current ownership since 1987, the New Jersey Fire Equipment Company handles a complete line of fire department equipment and supplies. Headquartered in Greenbrook, the company operates full 3M Scott service facilities in Ridgefield Park and Toms River, staffed by 10 fully authorized Scott certified technicians with a fleet of 6 fully equipped service vans. All New Jersey fire technicians and sales representatives are active or retired firefighters, officers or chief officers, career and volunteer. They understand the business and the importance of their work. New Jersey Fire has represented Scott since Earl Scott entered the SCBA business at the end of World War II. Among other leading manufacturers represented by New Jersey Fire are Globe and Firedex Turnout Gear, Mercedes Hose, Task Force Tips and Akron Brass, Hygenol, Fire Hooks, Arctic Compressors, MSA Carnes Helmets, ChemGuard Foam, Alkalite and Duo Safety Ladders, BA Face Shield Protectors, Truckman's Choice Saws, Grove's Gear Racks and Washer Dryers, Supervac Fans, RPI, Streamlight, and many others. A New Jersey incorporated and based company, sales and service are limited to the state of New Jersey. Find us now at www.njfe.com. That's www.njfe.com.
There he is.
Who?
What do you want, owl?
Ooh, what am I, a fucking owl? Sorry.
Come on,
Sorry,
let's
it's a
go.
family
Put the other
show.
one. I want to get him in. He's got good. I'm reading over his timeline. Right, he's got detailed stories here, man. His first job. We don't got to ask him nothing, bro. He's got it all down here.
He's going to just let it run. Okay, here we go.
Need a new floor for your fire station? Choose an Armor Tough interlocking flooring system to cover your aging, stained, cracked concrete or epoxy floor. Armor Tough has been around for nearly 20 years and has proven to be the best choice in renovating your station's floors, covering nearly 600 floors across the country. Proudly made in America, Armor Tough comes with a lifetime warranty and are usually installed in 1 or 2 days, depending on the size of your station, with virtually no disruption in your station's operation. Our system is guaranteed from chipping, cracking, peeling, breaking, or staining. The tiles are stain resistant and impervious to chemicals or volatiles that are used in the fire service. Damage one tile, lift and replace without anyone knowing. And once installed, your floor would be easy to clean with just soap and water. Is your current floor slippery? Eliminate the slip with Armor Tough.
Thank you.
I was trying, but I get your mug.
Listen, you see those logos? I said it before. Free. Vince will give you free logos on your floor when you get a floor over there from my man Vince at Armor Tough.
Yes, I highly recommend them. We have them.
You have them?
Yes.
I'm gonna get one in my garage. I'm gonna shake them down, see what I can get.
Quite a few people are actually doing it with those tiles.
Yeah, you do it. All right, Roof.
You do it.
He's such a
dick.
No, you do it.
Bring him in here.
A little angry this morning. All right, here we go. You ready, Gons?
Take it easy. Take it.
All right, good easy, baby.
Oh, here we go. Yes, sir, I am. Let's go.
All right, coming to the stage, FDNY Deputy Chief Jim Didomenico.
There he is.
Well, look the same.
Yeah, he does. Doesn't look like he's aged much at all. Like me and you.
Chief really Squad's here. What do you need?
Stand
fast.
Stand fast.
Stand by.
I stand by. We have to do the pledge.
Yes.
Okay.
Here we
no
go.
roll call?
Yeah. I'm wearing white socks. How do you like that?
Man, the White Sox. All right, here we go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wonderful. It's great to be an American these days, buddy.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Got
Welcome to the
things
show,
happening,
Chief.
baby.
A lot of good things happening.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the show, Chief. So let's get right into it here. Let's go back. Not that far. You're not that much older than us. He's not that much older. He's like my brother Steve's age, I think, right?
I'm 67. So
He's 66 or 67.
born November 11th, 1957. on Vets Day.
Happy birthday.
Happy belated.
Happy birthday, Chief.
Yeah. Always was off from school
Nice.
on my birthday.
Yeah. So you're born it says here Queens. You're a Queens guy. Story before the Greeks moved in.
We go to Queens.
They're still there.
Yeah.
You know, Astoria was Italian and Greek in a lot of ways. Hard-working people, right?
Yeah.
And good neighborhood. I ended up going back there as a captain. We'll talk about that later. But born in Astoria in 1957, middle child. You know, middle children don't get treated well.
Oh, yeah.
Jan.
You're not the baby.
Right,
you're
Peter
not the
Brady.
first. 4 or 5 years old. We moved out to Mineola in 1962. And I don't know if you know the way families were back then, but everybody kind of moved in clustered. We moved out. My father's sister moved out, lived across the street. My father's other sister moved out 6 blocks away.
Yeah.
Cops, firemen, you know. So Mineola was where we went. And then my brother was a little older than me, about 18 months older. My sister was born in 1962. I don't know. She might have been like one of those oops babies or something like that. But you know, there was my sister. Yeah,
That might have been me, the last of 7. I was a twin. My mother was like, oops.
You said it. I was thinking it. You said it.
No, you said
but
it.
my sister's like my best friend. She's wonderful. She's really
that's
good.
She watching tonight? You tell her you were on?
No, but I had to make sure we put a picture on. So
All right. There
she'll
you
be
go.
in a picture later. So she might be watching. I don't know. But yeah, most of my childhood was in Mineola. You know, from 5 on, we moved in one house. We moved to another house down the block. I went to public schools until I went to high school. High school, I went to Chaminade, which was a pretty good school.
Oh, great
obviously. All boys, you know, different experience.
Football, right? Did they have a big football team or something?
Yeah, I played Little League baseball. And my dad coached me on that. I played PBC football. I think we got a picture on that. You know.
Oh, look at this. Where are you?
Where are you? What number are you?
So my dad is the second in the last row of the coaches. He's the second guy. He looks like an engine guy, right?
He does look like an engine guy.
You mean the shorter guy that's kind of stocky?
His neck is bigger than his head. That guy?
Yeah. And if you go 2 guys over, that's me.
Oh, you know? I see you. I got you. In front of the other guy.
True.
Yeah, I got you.
I was 5'8" when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
And about 120 pounds. You had to weigh in every game to make sure you made the weight limit. You know, it's 5'8" at 12. I'm like 5'7" now. So
went the other way there.
That's what happens.
That's
yeah,
normal.
I went for medical 2 years ago, and they you know, World Trade Center thing, and they took my weight, took my height. They go, "You're 5'7", right?" I go, "No, I'm 5'8.5". They go, "No, you're 5'7". So
I had
that gravity, man, it doesn't.
I had the same conversation with the guy.
I was gonna stand.
I'm telling him, like, no, I'm 5'8". He's like, no, you can get on that thing 52 times. You're 5'6".
Yeah. So I went to when I graduated. Sorry, I interrupted. When I graduated high school, I hadn't even applied to a college. I was the only kid in Chaminade that hadn't applied to a college because my dad was a fireman, and I was thinking I want to be a fireman or a cop or something like that.
Cop. Oh.
I met some girl in the middle of the summer I was dating and stuff, and you know, I said, you know what, maybe I should go to college. So I went to St. John's for 4 years. I ended up majoring in athletic administration. All my career, I heard from a lot of guys like, you were a teacher, right? When you went to, I said, no, I was an athletic administration major. When I graduated from college, I was a letter carrier. That was my first job.
Really?
That's cool. This dream.
Letter, yeah. Letter carrier. Yeah. And then because my major in college was athletic administration, I saw the post office was kind of a dead end. I decided maybe I'm going to go to the business world. So I got a job with a roller skating rink. I was the manager of United Skates in Massapequa. And then I promoted to Jackson Heights, which was quite an experience.
Jackson Heights home.
Yeah.
Roosevelt Avenue and 71st Street.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
man.
That's
Yeah.
the shit right there. That was a
Jackson
that was
Heights.
a roller skating rink?
Yeah. We actually, it was a
Tony.
roller skating rink. We actually had a
I don't
show
remember
one
that.
night. We used to do shows where we'd
With the
bring
shit brown rental
entertainers
skates.
in. Let me finish. The DJ knew a lot of the up and coming stars. So we did a show with Bobby Brown. He was in this in a
Wow.
band.
Bobby Brown.
It's not my prerogative.
It was called the New Edition.
Yeah,
And-
we know that.
And
man.
they booked them for Easter Sunday, and the song Candy Girl was out. I don't know if you remember.
Oh,
that.
you're all my world. Candy girl.
Yeah.
All my world. Yeah,
Yes.
bro.
Anyway, I wasn't working. The limit for the place was like 800 people. They had like 2,000 people lined up to get in.
Really?
The fire department came, the 14th division came down, shut us down, and vacated us.
Shut it down. Shut it
New
down.
Edition.
Because they
Anyway,
weren't doing the
that
every
was-
little step.
That was that, and then I got on the FDNY.
All right, hold on one second. Do you remember
before
going to the
that's just me. Let's talk about my dad, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
talk about your pops. Do you remember going to the firehouse, obviously?
Yes, I would go to with my dad to pick up the check, or we would go to somebody's house. You know, back then, to pick up the check. He would go to the firehouse. Met the matron, Gracie. They had a matron there.
Gracie, one of the last firehouses on the job to have a matron.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Meet her. It was pretty cool going to the firehouse and all that. And I always heard the name, believe it or not, Richie Kuba. I heard that all the time.
Wow.
Bill Shue. I ended up working years later with Mike Shue. He was a great aide of mine.
Pete Loesch.
Pete Loesch, Jimmy Fitzgerald, all those guys.
He calls
Ronnie
my house
Campbell.
one day. My brother goes, "Hey, Dad, some guy Meatloaf's on the phone." He goes, "Pete Loesch?" Yeah, Pete Loesch.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, the firefighters went on strike, and they were on strike for like 5.5 hours. And my dad was with the guy. The officers were not on strike, but the firefighters were, and they got fined 2 days' pay for the one day they went on strike. So that was 73, and then I don't remember the exact year, but my dad had like 18, 19 years. There was a tragedy. There was a fourth alarm. Lieutenant Sparacino died in the fire, but my dad was the chauffeur. And he was working. He was working his second day tour. It was a day tour job. And I still remember my dad saying he came in. It was like his second tour as a lieutenant. Really good guy. I think he came out of 236 engine. And he said, "Yeah, what time's this guy come in that's relieving me?" And they got the run. They pulled up. It was a hair salon. When they pulled up, it was a job. My father said he hooked up, turned around, and all of a sudden you couldn't see the building. The hair, the spray cans and everything were popping. He gave a mayday. He was lost, and then it went. It was a tragedy. But I do know that impacted my dad, and that's the reason I bring it up. When he hit 20 years, he decided to retire. And that fire definitely impacted him. He was upset about that.
Yeah, that was right down on Fresh Pond Road, right past the L.
Yeah.
Yep. My father was working that night because my mother was setting my brothers down.
Your dad was. I didn't know that.
See if he was okay. My father had burnt his ears, I believe. But they sent my brother down to see if he was okay because we live close.
Where was that?
Fresh Pond Road. You know where the L is on Fresh Pond and
Corrado's over there?
Yeah. Yep. Like
on that side?
Half a block up on Corrado's side. Yep.
Yeah.
Really? I don't remember that.
You take that fire, and then when I was in college, one of my best friends that I used to commute with to St. John's, I dropped him off from college one day around 2:00 in the afternoon. He jumps in his car, he goes to work, and half an hour later, his house is on fire. His father dies in that fire. And I remember my dad. Yeah, my dad ran down the block and he was trying to get in, and so those two things, and wanting to be a fireman, made me join the Mineola Volleys. So
in 79, right?
I might have put the wrong date down. 77. 77. I was in Engine Company 3. John Salko was in the ladder.
Who's
Richie
the guy?
Bonnets, a couple of guys that went to the
Never heard these
city.
guys. I never heard
You
of
know,
these guys.
there was a decent amount of fires.
Yeah.
You know, back then there really was.
Whoa.
The one fire I just talked about for a second was the Honda fire. There was a Honda shop across from Chaminade, and it was tremendous. It was a brand new business, and all the people were complaining. They were up middle of the night, lots of noise, and we got to run 3 o'clock in the morning. And if you know how the volley thing works, you know, you race to the firehouse, you get in. I was a chauffeur already, and the lieutenant and we made the turn onto Jericho Turnpike, and about a mile away, you can see the flames halfway across Jericho Turnpike. You know,
I think we got something.
yeah,
Banging on the glass,
banging on the glass.
but nobody's back there. It's me and you, kid.
Yeah, we kind of knew, you know, that fire wasn't an accident. You know,
I think maybe Joey Buttafuoco set that one off, right? Wasn't it Mineola? Mineola guy, Joey Buttafuoco.
Could be a Buttafuoco.
Nikki the Clam.
Yeah. So that led to me taking the test December 3rd, 77.
Did your father at all tell you to take it, or didn't carry
You
the
know,
way?
he had mixed feelings.
Yeah.
He half of them wanted me to be on, half of them was I was the kid going to college, you know, kind of thing.
Right.
So he you know, but as time progressed, he wanted me on.
Right.
He really wanted me on. They went, everybody, you know, go to the Pudgy Walsh thing.
Yeah.
You know, you had the
That's crazy.
the whole setup, how to carry the dummy, how to scale the 8-foot wall and all that stuff. I was training at St. John's. So you guys know Pete Martin, who died on 9/11.
Yeah.
We were working out in the weight room, and we would go on the chinning bar because one of the tests was to hang on the chinning bar as long as you could, and they would play the music from Rocky. You know, you can't let go now. You know, you know, all that.
No pain, Rock.
No.
No pain.
That was a hard test, man.
25,000 took the written, 18,000. I looked this up. Took the physical, only 7,800 passed the physical.
Yeah, it's a hard test.
So it was different. So a few years later, May of '83, I get on. I was supposed to get on September of '82, but then there was a fiscal crisis, so they delayed us for 9 months. Went to Proby school. Back then, Proby school was 6 weeks. I didn't send you this in the pictures, but I'll just show it to you. Back in Proby school back then, you had to do the scaling ladders. You remember the scaling ladders?
Yeah.
I actually have that magazine. I think it's someone's right here.
3rd of '69. My dad gave me these WMYFs.
I have
You know, that was pretty, you know, interesting. But you were there 6 weeks. You know, great instructors. Most of the guys that
There he is.
Nice picture.
Yeah. Yes. That's my dad in his uniform. That's me. That might have been when I got out of Proby school. I don't remember the exact date of that. That's in my parents' house. But
Hey, Chief, is your pop still around?
No, he passed away in 2019.
Ah, shit.
So he was trying to get me into 231. So why 231? Because that's where he used to interchange. You know?
Oh, that's right. 291 used to go down to 231.
Yeah, they used to go to 231. You know, I don't know if the younger guys listening know what the interchange was, but if you hit so many runs by midnight, they swapped you. You know what I mean? And stuff. So, yeah, but I ended up in 260. So, but that's cool.
All right, but before we get too far ahead, I wanted to share this one with you. I know you wanted to mention it.
He done all right there, Ruffy. You know what I mean? He married up.
That's
He might be the chief of the club.
That's Mineola Fire Department. That's my wife currently. We're married 43, going on 44 year I
Never had a fight.
Yeah.
You won.
Yeah, correct. I met her at 17 and
Wow.
took her to a high school prom. The rest is history.
Yeah.
She met me when I was nobody. So
It might be the uniform, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that might have something to do with it. I don't know.
Blue magnet.
Just saying it. And I got 2 other family picks before we get into your Proby, so I want to make sure we get those covered. So if you mentioned one, just talk about. No problem.
So left to right, my mom, my dad behind her, me obviously, my brother, my 2 daughters, Michelle and Christine. Michelle's in the middle, Christine's on the right, and there's Debbie a little older, my wife. So
did your brother get on the job, Chief?
No, he worked in Mineola in government, and then he went to Kings Point and did some stuff in government. He's down in Carolina now. Yeah, he wasn't interested.
I got
And then the other family picture, that's when I got promoted to captain. My sister, had to get my sister Carol in there.
There she is.
She's left. There's my dad, me, again, my daughters, my wife, and my uncle, who was a cop at the time.
Pop always looks happy in these pictures, man. So
you know what? My when I came home and told my dad I passed the lieutenant's test, he thought I was lying.
Yeah.
You liars, stop it.
I remember my father being so proud of my brother when he got promoted lieutenant.
Yeah.
My father took the test a few times, but never really studied, 7 kids during that time.
I remember seeing my dad studying a little bit, but my dad was washing windows and working on the side, and I don't think the pay differential was significant for lieutenant back then.
Right.
So, he was so proud that I made one rank. He couldn't believe I made lieutenant. So
yeah, it looks good at that picture there. He's got a smile.
He got to see you go all the way up to what then? He got to see you go to deputy, right?
Not only that, he ended up working fire tech, working the door.
I know a guy. Hey, we got Rocco, help him find a checkbook. You know what I mean?
Right?
Yeah. And I used to tell him all the time, don't tell him who you are. when they come out and say that instructor sucked.
Yeah. Guy's so full of shit, man.
Steve, I have to say, when I was studying for lieutenant and I used to go to fire tech, your classes were the best and the worst at the same time.
I remember a guy said to me, "You were great. You gave us a lot of information. Sometimes a little too much information."
You could make yourself think too far into something sometimes, but
I got better. Like anything, you learn to refine it and make it a little more balanced. It was a little too much in the beginning. So
it was good. It was good. It made us look at. I had Danny Kruger, right? And Corrado and DeVolio and all those guys in my study group.
Yeah, a lot of guys.
Kanopka. Yeah, man.
Yeah, Pete, I remember him.
Yeah, I had a good study group too.
Different people study different things.
That's right, Chief. Different strokes for different folks.
I'm gonna get to one quick story about studying in a second. So then I go to 260. And that's in Long Island City. Very good single engine. A lot of good firefighters there. I'm not going to elaborate, but just some of the names: Glenn Taylor, Mike Augusta, and I don't know if any of you know Mike. He was lieutenant in 225 years later, but we came out of Proby school together. And Mike eventually made lieutenant, and he always used to joke, if I got to the firehouse from the fire academy before him, and he always used to joke, if I got to the firehouse first, I would have been a deputy. So, but Dave Lynott was a great firefighter.
The old rig, that's a good rig, yeah.
Yes, that's me. I don't remember what the occasion was, but that's me as a not Proby. That's just 260 engine. I don't remember when that was.
Old Max, man, right? Those are Max.
So, and then I did, before I get into the fire, I did my 30-day detail in 140 truck, which is where my dad was a fireman in the engine. It was a 30-day detail. Second tour. I was on straight tours, no mutuals. Pouring rain. I mean, the brakes were seizing up. It was unbelievable how bad the weather was. I get to the firehouse 5 after 9. And they're telling me, your father worked here 20 years. 2 feet of snow, he was never late. And they're busting my balls beyond belief. And then I watched one guy after the other come in 9:20, 9:30. I was the first guy in.
Don't matter.
But they let me have it. They let me have it for a little bit. But that, that was brief. My first fire was a Proby. It's a great story. So I have control, and it's like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I don't remember the time. I know it was nighttime. We pull up, first due, out every window on the first floor. I'm helping the chauffeur hook up, and I bring him the hard suction, and he's screaming at me, "Get that shit out of here!" He wanted, the quick connect thing. So anyway, I work my way down the street, chasing the kinks as they're charging the line. And when I get there, the lieutenant turns to me and goes, "Take the nozzle." So I'm like, okay, all right,
Nice.
I'm ready. You know, I did this before in the volley.
Hoo-ah! Hoo-ah!
Hoo-ah!
Anyway,
As long as you don't say that.
I know. I
You know,
can say it now.
You can think it, but don't say it.
Look, give me the nozzle. I've done this before.
So things go well, right? You're knocking down fire, 1 room, 2 rooms, 3 rooms. The trucks are opening up. The vibro alerts going off and everything. Finally, we both run out of air, and it's me and the lieutenant. So he says, he taps me, let's get out of here. I take my regulator off. I take my helmet off. I put my helmet on the ground. I'm taking my face piece off. Now I reach for my helmet. It's gone. He's like, let's go. But I just kind of like kept looking for my helmet. So he goes outside and he had my helmet. And somewhere during the stream operation, I must have knocked his helmet off. So he's got my helmet. He comes outside holding my helmet in his hand. And a guy from Rescue 4 thinks I threw it out the window or threw it out in the street or something like that. So he thinks I'm in trouble. But now I finally find a helmet. I put on my head. It's the lieutenant's helmet. And I come walking out, and they're looking at me and they're laughing at me. And I have no idea why they're laughing at me. So good job. Put out a lot of fire. For like 2 months, 116 would break my chops. Every time they saw me, they'd go, give the lieutenant his helmet back.
No. Of course.
A lot of guys don't know because everybody's got a handy talkie now. But back in the day, a Mayday for guys without a handy talkie, throwing a helmet out a window, right? Yep. That was something. I went to chauffeur school as a 3rd grade firefighter because they knew I had learned how to drive, out in Long Island. The one story I do want to tell was I decided to study, but I wasn't eligible for the test. But I decided, what the heck, I'll go to fire tech and I'll learn how to, what the job's about in certain ways. So I go to Staten Island, and there was a guy, we didn't have a publications unit. So there was a thing, go see the buff, Morris Hideaway in Staten Island. They drove out to this guy's house, and it was like a Queen Anne, and you knock on the door, this guy comes out, he's a dispatcher in Staten Island. And he takes you in the garage, and he's like, you want a set of books? Here's Lattice 3, here's Lattice 2. Everything was in a different font. There's a dispatcher selling books in Staten Island. That was yeah, right. That was how you got your books.
Something about that. I think I remember that.
Yeah. So I kept studying, but I was thinking I wasn't going to catch the test. They finally pushed it back, and I caught it. I had 3 years, 3 days.
Perfect. Wow.
Well, yeah, I probably would have been better off if I had done more time, but so after I passed the test, I transferred 4 months later to 53 Engine. Obviously, great firehouse, 53 and 43. I mean, I was listening to Jay Jonas the other night, the job those guys did on 9/11, trying to get Jay and everybody out of there. A lot of great people there. Ralph Koppler was the captain, then Jimmy Stark in the engine. Some great firemen. I'm just mentioning names. Tommy O'Connor, Jimmy Leonard, they both came to the 13th for lieutenants later on. George here, Jimmy Lanza.
Oh, I love Jimmy Lanza, right? Wasn't that guy? He was freaking awesome dude, man.
Unbelievable.
Was Big Daddy there?
Who's that?
Big Daddy? What was his name, Roofy? He went to Squad 18, but he was for 40.
Yeah, good-looking guy, tall guy. I forget what the hell his name was. Fat Daddy, remember his name.
I was only there 3 years. That picture there was at Mud. It's Tommy Donovan on the left. He was a chauffeur. That's me, Marty O'Neill, Lieutenant Christensen, Tommy Hosford, and Stevie Modica. And the dog.
No dog didn't have a name.
The dog had a name. I can't remember it. It was a famous. It was a famous dog. It was a Dalmatian.
You made Tilly's night. You saw the Dalmatian.
Yeah.
That's it.
George here was like this legendary guy in the truck. I mean, he was one of the best firemen you ever saw. And one day we had the doctor in quarters in 53 and 43. He would have park his car there. And the doctor comes in one day and he looks at the dog and he says, wow, look at the size of the balls on this dog and stuff. And George goes, those are truck balls, So that was funny. Another just quick notable thing in the battalion there was the 2-5 battalion before they disbanded it. There was a deputy up there, a Battalion Chief, Jimmy Brand, who years later was a deputy up in the Bronx. And I went to Pennsylvania, Lancaster with my family. And I come back. I was in the 15th Division as a covering lieutenant. And I get a message on my machine that says, you're going to 50, what's Riverdale?
52, isn't it?
52 and 52. You're going to 52 Engine tonight. So I call up the 15th Division and I go, hey, bro, my group's not in. He goes, well, we changed your group. I go, you can't change my group on a vacation. So anyway, they put the deputy on the phone. The deputy says, you're absolutely right, but they never call the 7th Division. Now my phone rings 7 o'clock at night. It's Jimmy Brand, the deputy. He goes, Jimmy, where are you? I tell him the story. He goes, I told the guy you're a good guy. I'm waiting for you up here. I go, Chief, I'm not doing tonight. He goes, will you come up on overtime? I go, I'm on my way. Give me the address.
Right? Available. I'm available.
I'm available.
Yeah.
That ain't available, baby.
He didn't even get the address out. He got, it's me, Chief.
Yeah.
He's still telling them.
I got there and they had a lawn in the front of the firehouse.
Yeah, right.
With a lawn.
Coobs,
So,
it pays to know the regs. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Did you see that, bro? He knew
Yeah.
I'm
what's
just saying. I'm just saying.
And the other guy would have went, well, okay.
Okay, I'll be right.
I'll go.
Okay.
Jimmy Stark was a great captain, and we had a job, an electronics store on 86th Street.
Crazy Eddie?
You know, it might have been. I don't remember. I don't remember, but I do remember the store. It was a 14-story high-rise MD with an electronics store that was like 100 feet deep, and the smoke was pumping out of there. And you know, the first engine kind of got relieved, and the deputy came over to Jimmy Stark because he knew him, and he said, "Do me a favor, man. Can you go in there and get some water on the fire?" And so I had the backup, and we were going in. And I'm just saying this. You know, there was the thing back in the day, don't put water on smoke.
On smoke.
Yeah.
Which they've changed now. They've changed that.
Oh, yeah.
And the ceilings must have been 12, 14 feet high or whatever. And every 10 feet, Stark was like, hit the ceiling, because he was worried about it rolling over our head. Finally, I got the nozzle because guys were running out of air. We finally got to the back, and the fire was all the way in the back, but it was that thick, you know, black rolling shit till we got back there. We got a unit citation, and the deputy told Stark, this is the first third alarm I've been to that was put out with one handline.
Wow.
You know? Yeah, because it was fireproof. You know, it was a high-rise MD, and it was just, you know, you had to get to the back. You had to get to the back. That's where the fire was. So that was a unit citation. That was nice. The other fire that was notable was on New Year's Eve. I was the chauffeur. We had 2 jobs already, and around midnight, we get a job. We get a report in a high-rise MD, 9th floor, whatever, and it's like 5 to 12 on New Year's Eve, and we go in. There's nothing there. I'm out in the street, and then somebody looks across the street. We had the wrong address, so they go to the other side, and they go up there, reposition the rig. I get a good hydrant, supply the standpipe, and they're screaming they got no water. No water at all. And I'm like, I got a good hydrant. I'm double checking everything. Finally, the chief sends 91 engine down. They stretch a line to the first floor outlet. I mean, it's like 20 minutes before we get water on the first floor. They put the fire out, 1045 code 1. Oh, God. Now, there's big investigation. The deputy, why did it take so long? Blah, blah, blah. Finally, the next morning, the captain comes to me, Koppler, and he comes up to me and he goes, Jimmy, you did nothing wrong. I go, what happened?
Shut off somewhere?
The fire marshals came. The guy who started the fire shut the OSMY in the cellar. So, you know, but that's the importance of understanding certain things. Like in today's world, you would look at the flow meter and you would say, I'm flowing 0, chief. Something's got to be closed. You know what I mean? But back then it was just, hey, I don't know why you're not getting water.
Right.
You know? So then that also came about because of the Deutsche Bank and other things that we put a big emphasis on. Are you flowing 500 gallons a minute? Well, then something's broken. You know what I mean?
Right, because you're still flowing, right?
Right. But if you're flowing 0, well, something's closed. You know? And Dunn talked about that in his book and stuff. So I used to make a big deal about that, understanding those little things. So that's fireman. Move on to lieutenant before we hit midnight here, right?
No, you're good. You're good.
Were you nervous about getting promoted that with 3.5 years
How much
on the job?
Wow. No, you had more than that.
I had 6.5.
Oh, 6.5. You had 3.5 weeks.
3 years, 3 days for the
Math
test.
is not his major.
Right.
Well, you remember he said he studied, but he studied other things, right?
It wasn't math.
I suck in math too, but you know what I'm saying.
But 3 + 3 I can figure out.
Yeah. Let me rephrase that question. Were you nervous about getting promoted with 6.5 years?
Good one.
Absolutely.
Great
question. Absolutely nervous. I remember my dad used to tell me a lot. The hat will fit eventually. You'll get used to it. But
I like that one.
Huh. Shirt, t-shirt.
I knew. Let me tell you, I knew the critical thing was you got to go to work. So I got assigned out of flips to the 10th Division, and I used to go into the division aides all the time and bring them cookies and cake. And I was working all the time in the 4-1 with 248, 255, all those companies going to fires. And, then the job did a reorganization. They disbanded the 10th, the 12th, the 13th, and they moved the 4-1 into the 15th, the 3-7. All the busier companies at the time were in the 15th. So when I had 1 year, I transferred to the 15th. I got lucky. There was a chief who liked me, and he pushed and got me into the 15th. And, I remember the words of a guy in 140 who said to me one time, he says, if you're not sure what to do, just take a stutter step and the fireman will show you where to go. So, listen, I worked towards it 111, 120, 103, where I was the junior guy. 103. There were guys, the can man had 12 years, So, I was the lieutenant, but I was telling them, if you see something, let me know,
See something. Right. See something.
Guys were great. The Brooklyn Fire Department, I thought was wonderful. They treated me, even though I only had 7-8 years, they treated me like gold. We went to a lot of good fires, and it was good. So then
Chief?
I'm sorry?
Did you like 103? I don't know. I never really heard about it. Just wondering.
103, you just had to make sure you put your seatbelt on, right? So,
your seatbelt on. Hang on.
Listen,
Get in. Hang on.
I never had any problem with guys that were into the job. They were into it. They turned out for everything. I covered throughout the whole division. I guess you have your favorite places. For me, one of my favorite places was 227. I met some people there I knew, and I went to a lot of work in 227. So, there was the Crown Heights riots. You guys are familiar with that?
Yeah.
And the history of how that came about. And there was a lot of things going on, and they were putting cops all over the city. But the only place they didn't put cops was firehouses, because they felt that the community loved the firemen, which they did, until, of course, they went to 234, knocked every window out of the house watch door. The house watchman was laying on the floor calling for help, and they flipped over the staff chief's car, and then they went, maybe we should put, some little more protection in for the firefighters. So we got a direct order to now not go to work in the firehouse. We had to go to 332 175, and the division van would drive us to work. We weren't allowed to park our cars because we were in the disturbance area. And that was cool. The cops now were riding with us. We had 5-6 cops in the firehouse eating dinner with us. It was a pretty cool thing. And we were going to fires. And I remember some of the cops going you guys
the wrong test.
I'm putting my paper in.
That's what I'm saying. That's when they moved over.
That's when they started moving over. Is right.
So anyway, there was one night when the job decided to do the emergency command procedure, and they wanted the companies in the disturbance area not really going to fires there, and so we get a run. The first run of the night, I forget the chauffeur, but he was a very senior guy. We get a run around 6:30 at night, report of a fire in an MD, whatever. We're about 4 blocks away, and the dispatcher says, Brooklyn at 227. We got a report of a sniper on the roof, shots fired. I said to the chauffeur, how far away are we? He goes, we're about 3 blocks away. I go, stop at the next corner and we'll go 1084. You know, it ended up being a 1092. It ended up, we sent the cops in. They looked around. There was no sniper. There was no shots being fired. We take up, and now we're going to a box for a jewelry store on fire. We knew this was going to be a job because that was what the writing was a little bit about. Hey, long story short, we're about a few blocks away, Brooklyn to 234, 227, blah, blah, blah. All units return to quarters. There's a task force coming in. Received 234, 1075. Boom. We all continued in. Second alarm was transmitted a minute later. My chauffeur couldn't get out of the rig. They wouldn't even let him out of the rig. Took up to a hydrant.
Really?
Wow. It was crazy that all the stores were being looted and everything. It was crazy. But we put the fire out. We went back. They yelled at us because we disobeyed an order. But
better to beg for forgiveness.
Yeah. Or proceed until apprehended. Right.
I might have lived by those words. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I would have to know. From what I know.
Proceed until you finger poke. And then,
Never.
Then get lifted.
There was another job. This was not the riot. And the senior guys called them the quiet riots. They were like, these were nothing compared to the 60s and stuff. Then I had another job, public school. This was a pretty interesting fire. We were second due. And we pulled up, the library was on fire on the second floor. I mean, this thing was roaring out a bunch of windows. And we helped 222 stretch it 2.5. Then we stretched our own 2.5. Rocco Rinaldi was in 111. I remember him calling me on the fire floor, like, bring that other 2.5 down here. You know, he's telling us where to go. And, you know, they were at one entrance to the library. We went to the next entrance and we're operating a 2.5. We're not making a dent in the fire. And all of a sudden we see chairs, tables flying all over the place. And they were trying to call us to tell us they were going to hit it with the bucket. I think my radio went dead or something, but for whatever reason, we kind of figured out maybe it's a tower ladder. So we backed away. We finally ran out of air. We got relieved. And I go down the hallway and I'm looking out a window and I'm talking to some firemen and I go, why are there all these rigs? He goes, it's a fifth alarm.
Just like that.
You know, you're on the fire floor. You think it's an all hands, right?
Yeah. So,
you know, that was a pretty good story. We got burned, not terribly, but, you know, then we go in the ambulance and the nozzle man looks at me and I go, where are we going? He goes, we're going to Scary Mary's. Like, what's that? This is a hospital, St. Mary's Hospital or something like that.
Scary Mary's.
Scary Mary's.
That's usually not a good sign when you're going there for something.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have
the name alone.
But, you know, we just, you know, did the thing. Then my other 227 story about fires, I caught a lot of big fires there. I'm at home with my wife, and we used to help out, volunteer at bingo at the church, and they used to have a thing in November where they, you know, had a little dinner for all the volunteers. 5 o'clock, my phone rings. Hey, Division 15, listen, we're desperate. You're the junior guy, you're on standby, whatever. Okay. You know, I tell my wife, listen, I just got ordered in to 227. And so I go to 175. That's where my gear is. Pick it up. It's pitch black. It's dark. It's, you know, it's the winter. And I'm making my way over to 227. All of a sudden, I see 176 driving by, lights and sirens. I open the window. I smell the smoke. I'm like, definitely a job here. So I follow them in. I pull my car over. I had an old ghetto car. And I walk over to the 4-4 aide, Ratso. You guys remember Ratso? In the 4-4?
Yeah.
Famous aide. He's smoking a cigar. And I go, is 227 on a box? He goes, yeah. Now, I had called the guy at 227 and told him I'm going to be late. And he's like, you got to get here like right now. I got to go to my side job. I go, I'll do my best. So I park my car. I got my keys. I got my gear on. And I see Sean O'Sullivan, 227, coming down the block. Now, I've never met this lieutenant. And I point to him. He points to me. Are you? Yeah. He's handing me his handy talkie.
Relief at the job.
I would never do that. Never.
Handing me his mask. The battalion chief is watching the whole thing. All right. The truck's
Here's my keys. Yeah.
The truck's cutting the door still, right? You know, and I hand him my keys. I go, put the car in, 227's quarters. He leaves. Bobby Higgins was in 231. I still remember that. We got 2.5s. The guy from 120 goes, "You guys ready?" They take the glass. We go marching in, and it rolls over our heads. The whole thing lit up. They backed us out. We were there like till 1 a.m. Anyway, the guy calls me the next morning, and he says,
"That's awesome.
How much overtime did you give me?"
He wanted the overtime too. The son of a
bitch. He went to a side job, and he wanted the overtime. I think I gave him an hour or something. But
you got to,
funny story.
Son of a
wow. Relief in front of the building, bro.
Dude, that is never happening. Never. That's one thing I can guarantee. That's never happening.
Right. So think about it. I used to see him, and I used to say, "You are the only lieutenant in the history of the Brooklyn Fire Department that walked away from a fifth alarm."
that you were there, for God's sakes. It's not even like the guy was coming in right at that time when I would still be like, "Hey, dude, take it in."
That's up there with the rooftop mutual. Right?
It is.
You guys don't know? Go back and see our buddy
Chief
there, Chief Nicolello's story. They did a rooftop mutual.
Yeah, that's a little silly.
You guys know Keith?
Yeah,
very well.
Great guy. I got detailed to 30 truck. I don't even have this in my thing, but real quick, neat Keith story. I was in 53 engine. I got detailed, roster, whatever, and I pull up. I come in. He writes my name in, Didomenico and stuff, and he looks at me and he goes, "Do you have a relative in the Los Angeles Fire Department?" And I did.
He knows everything.
How the hell do you? I go, "How do you know
everything?" Nicolello was asking him if he had
Nicolello, right?
Yeah.
First of all, everybody knows him, and he knows everybody. That guy.
He goes all around the country. He knows every fireman everywhere.
I know. He knew my third cousin in the Los Angeles Fire.
He's still every show that we do. I'm not kidding. He texts me if it's from the guy from the FDNY.
Yeah,
he just can't. He can't get enough.
Great.
He loves it. He's
a great guy.
He's in the top 3 guys that love the job more than everybody, man. It's
all
incredible.
In. He was all in.
He's all in.
He's all in.
Yeah. So
that's true.
One more 227 story. Jerry Quinn. I don't know if you guys know Jerry. He was a fireman in 227. Ended up in the 5-1, working as my battalion commander for many years. So I'm studying for captain. I'm a lieutenant. And in my study group was Danny Marino, who worked in 26 truck, Joe Woznicka, Brian Curran, Huey Mulligan, a bunch of guys. Anyway, Danny was not a lieutenant yet, and he was one of the guys on the lieutenant eligibles. So Danny would tell us stories all the time about, I'd be like, "Danny, you think they're going to get to you? Blah, blah, blah." Well, I spoke to Jerry, blah, blah. Jerry was the president of the eligibles. So anyway, I go to 227 one day, and it was right after I transferred to the 15th. They're out on a manhole. I drive my car over. I relieve the lieutenant. And I'm talking to the guys on the back step. We're waiting for the utility. And I'm saying, "Anybody on the list? Anybody studying? Blah, blah, blah. What do you hear, Lou?" I go, "Well, I got this friend, Danny Marino." And he said, "Jerry Quinn said they're going to make the whole list, or they're going to do this or whatever." And this guy looks at me and goes, Yeah. Anything else that Jerry knows?" And, he keeps asking me questions.
This can't be good.
Finally, he says to me, "I'm Jerry Quinn."
Big Brandon says, "Oh, that's son of a bitch, Jerry Quinn. He's fucked. You don't know shit." I see Danny Marino all the time. He lives right by me. He went from 26 truck to 132 truck.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm trying to get him on the show. I think he's got a brother on the job too, right? Or he had a brother on the job?
Yes, Pete.
Yeah, I'm trying to get them to come on the show.
Oh, those are two complete opposite people.
That'd be great. I see him. Yeah. I see him in a bank. I see him in the fruit store. I'm like, come on, you.
That's pretty funny. That's a funny story, man.
Yeah.
What else did this guy say?
Tell me more about Jerry Quinn.
What else? What else did Jerry say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's freaking awesome.
Another guy I met in the 50. I'm only going to name a couple, but Eddie Garrity, ladder 132 lieutenant, obviously, and passed away. Died on 9/11. But Eddie and I got really tight. We studied together. We did a lot. We taught the back to basics at the Rock together, and I got a little more on him later. He was phenomenal, and he's got a son, Connor Garrity, who's on the job now. Great kid. So another guy, Joe Russo, from, I don't know if you guys knew Joe. He was in 222 as a fireman, 225 as a lieutenant, captain at 254. But he was another guy that was like a mentor to me. And after we took the captain's test, we formed a captain's eligibles, and the executive board was kind of like Eddie Garrity, Joe Russo, Jerry Quinn, Bobby Maines, and I was at the top of the list. But Joe was like, "Jimmy's the president," and I was like, "Why? I'm at the top of the list. Why do you want to make me the president?" He goes, "I love all these guys. I trust all these guys, but you're the guy I trust more than anybody. You'll do the right thing." And I'm like, "All right, whatever." So I ran the captain's eligibles for the first year, and it was actually a pre-eligibles because we had 3 parts to our test: a written on tactics, another written on a fake fire department, and an essay. And they hadn't marked the essay. So long story short, the list, the chief of personnel, I was calling him all the time to find out, you're making promotions, what's going on. And he goes, "Yes, one day we're making promotions, you're number 8 on the list, and we're making you on September something," whatever it was. So I'm like, "Chief, there's no way I'm number 8 on the list." And he goes, "Why would you say that?" I go, "I did a survey. We called every guy. I have a mock list. I'm like number 25 and number 30. He goes, "Are you turning down the promotion?" I go, "No, there's something wrong with the list. I'm telling you, there's something wrong." So I'll never forget this. I go, "Can you do me a favor?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Where's Patty Brown on the list? God rest his soul." Because Patty had vets points, good mark and everything. And he goes to me, "Patty's not on the list." I'm like, "How could Patty not be on the list?" He goes, "It's a 100-man list. That's all they gave us. We were going to be made provisionals." I go, "Can you give me one more name?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Jack Kleehouse." He goes, "He's not on the list." I go, "Chief, I got these guys in the top 10. They both had vets points. How could they not be on the list?" He goes, "I'll get back to you." He calls me back. He goes, "You're totally right. They screwed up. They didn't put."
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Oh, it gets worse.
Catching that shit.
Oh, it gets worse. He goes, "Thank you very much." I go, "Those are the only 2 guys with eligibles." He goes, "I kind of owe you a favor. You want any other names?" And I gave him 5 names that were all scattered. And he gave me their list numbers. I said, "I'll call you back in 20 minutes. I called him up and I go, "Chief, I figured out what they did." And he said, "What'd they do?" I said, "Anybody who got less than a 90, they did not include their seniority. They only used guys who wrote from 90 to 100. He goes, "There's no way they did that." I go, "You're going to have guys that should be in the top 10, like Patty Brown and Jack Kleehouse. And then they're going to get promoted. They're not going to get promoted. And you're going to have some guy who should be 120 on the list who's going to get demoted after this list comes out."
Yeah, right.
He calls the UFOA, he calls DCAS, and they totally screwed it up. He said, "We're canceling the promotions." So I had guys calling me up. I won't
That's
say
crazy. I don't remember.
Saying "You should have just kept your mouth shut." I go, "I'm the head of the eligibles. I represent everybody." I go, "That list was wrong. I don't care when we get promoted." So that brought me a lot of credibility. Then a couple weeks later, or 2 months later, when they figured it all out, the acting fire commissioner, Bill Feehan, who is another all-star, unbelievable human being, came to us and said, because the list size was based on the needs of the department, he says, "We owe you a favor. What size list do you want?" And I said, "Commissioner, that's not my call. That's your call." You know what I mean? I said, "But you got a lot of senior guys. I think you got to think a little bigger than the typical list." So I wouldn't answer that question. But That's how much they appreciated that the eligibles was doing the right thing. We were fighting for promotions, but we also knew the list was wrong. So that was good.
Right.
That was real positive, and it was a good time.
I never heard that story before.
Yeah, it was very interesting. But you get tested, and we all make mistakes, and I made plenty of mistakes, but that was one where I think I did the right thing.
How big of a list did they make then?
600.
From 100 to 600. Good for you.
Well, the 100 was provisional.
Right.
So DCAS just put out a provisional list. Typically, the captain's list was 400. But by the time they were done with the provisional list, they were already up to 150 on the captain's list. So they still had 4 years to go. So that's why they went with 600.
Did they end up finishing the list?
Went to about 550.
All right.
Yeah. There was a lot of...
Because that's always the thing with the eligibles, right? You're
Yes.
still working for the end of the list all the
Yes.
time, right? I mean...
Yes, and I there's always a fight between the one list and the next list. So I'm not advocating one way or the other, but I was, the head of the eligibles for a period of time. Then Joe Russo and other guys took it over, and interesting times back then. But then they tried to cure that. You remember they went to the list size was going to be the 175th highest mark on a BC test, 400th mark on a captain's test, 800th mark on a lieutenant's test. Do you remember that, or you don't remember?
No, I don't remember that.
They did that to stop the eligible groups. They didn't
so that it was going to be a set number all the time.
Correct.
And that was it. I got
And it was based on typically over 4 years, we make this many captains. And when that stopped, they gave a BC's test that was the all-time ball breaker. And the 175th mark was a 58. And they had to make everybody.
Might have had a chance.
Motherfucker.
Yeah. So, and that test was ridiculously hard. But anyway, so then I get promoted to captain. And I didn't take a spot intentionally. I was going to all busy houses doing vacations, and I didn't really know anybody. I just kept working in good places and going to fires. So while I was studying, you got that picture, Gonzo, of Joe Waz and me at the command post?
Oh, yeah. I was waiting for you to call that one. Boom.
Yeah, now that's later on in the career, but Joe Waz was one of my best friends, unbelievable study partner. His nickname was the Waz. That's him and I years later. But he was the main guy that pushed me to start studying for Battalion Chief, so that's just a good shot I have of him. That was at 3rd Alarm on Thanksgiving years later. So that's just a good picture of Joe. Always a big advocate of me and good guy. So I get promoted to captain in September of 93. I put my paper in to go to the 1st or the 3rd. They made 30 guys, 60 guys, the first class. And, the room was, hey, you got to do some Manhattan time. So I put my paper in for Manhattan, and they sent me to Queens.
We go to Sounds about right.
Whatever. So,
Whatever.
A lot of the guys who were, great guys, well-connected, got into Manhattan, stayed there about 6 weeks, and then went back to Harlem and the Bronx. You know what I mean? They got called up, and they didn't even stay there. But so I'm UFO in 324, which is in with the division, but I knew there was a guy with a lot of weight putting in for the spot. I didn't think I was going to get it. The division commander asked me to go to 263. I called up Jack Kleehouse, who was UFO there. You remember that, Louis? When Jack?
I do remember that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He told me the guys put out the fire. 1 or 2 minor things you got to work on, but otherwise, good place. You get to park your car in quarters. I was like, okay. So I took it. Del Coward, Billy Urban, Patty Lee, Mannix were in the truck, all great fire officers. Stubbs, Carew, Kevin Kiefer in the engine. So we had some good people. Notable firefighters. Lou Refrano, I have on my list here.
Oh, Lou Refrano.
Danny Kruger, Nicky Corrado, Danny White, Joe Abamonte, Matty Hackett, Mike Fiddle, Alan Arias, Joe Napick, great guys. I do have a Refrano story.
Oh, we got to hear it.
So it's not that bad. It's just a little. I was in the truck one day and we went to a lockout, and some 18, 19-year-old kid left his keys in the apartment. So we sent up a team to the inside. you know, and like the door's locked. You know, we didn't want to force the door. So we put up a portable ladder and told the kid, climb up the ladder, go in the fire escape, go inside, you know, and we're telling him. So as he's climbing up the ladder, Louis yells at him like, the kid had on these baggy pants that were like, it was in fashion. They were like 3 times bigger than your legs and stuff like that. So as he's going up the ladder, Louis goes to him, remember to go to the door, let him know you're okay, and then put on a pair of pants that fit, okay?
Wow.
I still remember it.
So, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you? Talk about tight pants.
You got, Gonzo, you got the picture of the rig with my daughter and stuff? Yes. That's
Lowell there, right?
Dave Lowell.
Dave Lowell.
Rapoli in the front.
Rapoli.
Me and my daughter, Michelle, and Al Arias.
So Alan Arias, he was the head of the motorcycle club, right?
Fire Riders, yep.
The Fire Riders, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Al was great.
He was a sweetheart. Yeah, he was a sweetheart. Alan was a sweetheart.
Real good.
You never had to throw a loose can down the hallway, did you?
No.
So Coobs, I was telling when I was telling the chief, you know, I was trying to think about some stuff, you know, that I remember, and Coobs, I figured Coobs would get a kick out of this. So 95, I break up with my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now all this time, but she wanted to get married and I didn't want to get married, and you know, she ended up breaking up with me, right? And I go through this torturous thing for like 6 months where I'm like in the shower, I got the water running on me. Coobs just call me like every 6 weeks, every 6 hours, whatever. I'm on suicide watch. Yeah, the whole thing, right? So I'm going to work, and to make, you know, we were talking about it before. You know, I got Patty Lee, I got Bill Urban, Coward, right? All these tough guys, you know what I mean? Just like I couldn't go in the office and like say, hey, Lou, you know, listen, this is what's going on, because they would just chew me up, right? Right. So I go next door. I go now in this house. This house wasn't really like that in the beginning. I mean, it is now, but back then it wasn't really like that. But you know, I was kind of a newer guy, so I used to spend a lot of time on the engine side too. I would go see the guys, whatever. So I knock on the door and I asked him if he remembered this. He didn't remember it. So I knock on the door and I said, hey, Lou, you know, hey, Cap, you got a second? I want to ask you something. So I go inside, close the door, and, you know, bullshit, you know, throw out all my information, see if he has any, you know, insight or, you know, whatever. And I still remember whatever. Well, I don't remember exactly what he said, but I do remember coming out of there. He did give me some information. But
what did he say?
But
ain't nobody got time for that.
Time for that. But he said, "Go hit some ass." No, he didn't say that. No. but the chief was like, we were talking about it, and I said to him after that time, I definitely felt like over my career that guys would come knock on the door, and you know they'd say, "Hey, Lou, you got a second?" I'm like, "Yeah, come on in." He's like, "Yeah, I got some serious stuff I want to talk about." I'm like, yeah, give me the nickel, because I used to tell him like peanuts, Lucy. You had the psych, you know. Come in for 5 cents, right? And you could talk to a psychologist. And the chief said to me today, and it was definitely true, and I said I wanted to bring this up, was that when you get promoted, that's almost kind of like part of the job, like a little bit somewhere, like where people could come to you and trust your opinion. Hopefully you have that rapport with your guys, that they could come in the office and lay out some stuff that's bothering them, not fire related, you know what I mean? And and you know, I just thought he was definitely right, because I felt like over my career that I definitely did that more times than I would think.
He didn't say you're crying. I'm not crying.
He's like, no, you're not crying. They're crying.
No, I'm crying.
He don't remember.
You know, yeah, and you know, as time went on after 9/11 and a lot of other stuff, we learned to make tremendous use of the counseling unit. You know, sometimes there was a problem where you want to support the guy, but you also want to let him know what resources are available. I sent 5 or 6 guys to the counseling unit, and at least 4 of them turned their life around, you know, and they thanked me afterwards. That's a tough thing to do, because, you know, you're like, listen, I either have to give you an order, which doesn't look good, or you can do a voluntary referral. So what do you want to do? Well, you really can't go. No, you're going. Just which way do you want to do this? All right, I'll go voluntary and stuff. But you can change people's lives. And that's the most extreme situation in counseling. But, you know, they're looking to you. They're coming in and closing that door because they might see you as somebody that, not just an officer, but as an individual that they can talk to in confidence, as opposed to the kitchen where
no way.
Yeah.
the
Can you
rule
imagine
with
walking in the kitchen?
Hey,
I said, "Well,
Hey,
I'm
Coops,
upset, like,
Coops,
no,
whatever he said worked because I'm married 27 years now.
you know what,
so-
Chief? Thanks for saving my little buddy's life. I appreciate it. Kept him away from the light.
Thanks, little
The light, little buddy.
Stay away from
buddy.
the
Little buddy.
Coops, I'll give you my phone number if you want to call me after the show.
because it's obviously not working. Whatever you. Well, now he finally got the one. He got the one, Chief. Now he's got.
But
the
you
one.
know, I do remember like a guy when I was a fireman in 260, there was a guy having a big argument with his girlfriend and stuff. And, you know, there's a temptation to go, yeah, she's a piece of whatever. Yeah, I wouldn't be dating her. And then 3 days later, he's back with her, you know, 3 days later. And he's like, I love you. And you're like, I just called her.
You hang up first.
Yeah.
You hang up.
Yeah.
No, but I did when he said that
I love
today.
you.
It
I
definitely
love you.
clicked with me because I
Wow.
took pride. I took pride in that too when guys would come
Yeah.
in and
Yeah.
I would be honest, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the most important thing. So
Yeah. So
Right.
another thing, the Gonzo, the photo of the whole engine company in the back room. Yeah. So there was a kid, Jimmy Baccarello.
I remember this, Chief. I
Yes.
forgot all about this.
Yeah, and he had brain cancer. He lived 2 blocks away. Rapoli somehow hooked up with the family and said we should do something. And you know, we made him an honorary firefighter, and it was a really nice event. You know, the fire commissioner came and the whole bit, and they've remained friends with that family ever since. And you know, so Paul Mannix, I never even thought about teaching for fire tech. So Paul Mannix walks in one day, and he says, "Hey, I just got hired by Fire Tech." I go, "Good for you." He goes, "You know, they're looking for more instructors." I go, "Really? Maybe I'll do that." So I called up Chief Murtaugh, who ran Fire Tech. He said, "Come meet me at one of the classes." And I said, "So, you know, how's the training program? What do I do? How's it work?" He goes, "We're going to give you an assignment, and you either sink or swim." I was like, "Okay." So, you know, there was no training program. It was like, you've been going to Fire Tech, you get it. You either can do it or you can't. You know, you get one shot. So I did okay. You know, I survived that. Back to basics. Did any of you guys go to Back to Basics?
Yeah, I thought it was a good program, actually.
Yeah, so that was put together originally by Eddie Garrity, John Salka, Jerry Tracy, Andy Fredericks. I know you honored him and stuff. And then I got involved with the program and a few other guys and stuff. And, you know, when guys would show up, there had been 11 line of duty deaths. There was Vandalia Avenue, there was Watt Street, Clancy, you know, all those things. And guys would be, you know, like, "Hey, why are you guys here?" And they'd be like, "Because of all the line of duty deaths." We're like, "That's not why you're here." Do you remember why that? You might not, you probably don't remember. It was so long ago. When we won the roster staffing lawsuit against the city, the judge ordered a 9-hour day of training to explain how roster staffing worked. So we used to call it Engine Appreciation Day. And it was really cool because they would have guys from
That was
borough.
every year you would do that, right? You had to do that every year, correct?
No, everybody did it once.
Only one time? Oh, all
The
right.
judge ordered 9 hours of overtime for training. And the idea was to explain how we stretch a line with 4 firefighter engines, etc. So because they threw out the roster staffing, you know, the 3rd engine is on roster staff, and they didn't explain, well, how's this work? They didn't change the book. So that program had nothing to do with all the line of duty deaths. But it was a cool thing. I learned a lot listening to these firefighters from Manhattan, from the Bronx and stuff. You know, you're teaching, but then they're teaching you. You know what I mean? So I really got a lot out of that. So anyway, I get promoted to Battalion Chief in September of '96. Within a year or so, my wife, you know, we were living in a Levitt house in Hicksville. You know, we decided we wanted to move. I told her it was going to be a little challenging because, you know, I got a $20,000 pay cut. She goes, "You got promoted to Battalion Chief." I go, "I was making 500 hours of overtime at the Rock teaching Back to Basics." I go, "It's a 3-year stretch.
No overtime now, right?
No overtime." She was like, I don't get it, you know? So
Neither do we.
You waste all that time studying for, Jim.
The math. There's that math again.
yeah, and listen, that's a
There
big
goes
problem
that
on
math again.
the job right now. You got captains making 600-700 hours of overtime.
Oh yeah.
It's a huge pay cut. It's a huge pay cut. But you know, anyway, at the promotion, a chief comes up to me and says, "You got to work in Manhattan." I go, "I already tried that. I put in for Manhattan as a captain. You guys sent me back to Queens." No. You got to go to Manhattan. So they sent me to the 1st Division to do the Manhattan thing. And about a month later, Eddie Garrity calls me up, and he's working for Pete Gansey, Chief Gansey, who is everything you ever heard about Chief Gansey. Multiply it by 100. He was better than you would ever know. The guy was just a great, great man. Wow. And we know what he did on 9/11. But anyway, so we're working for him. And I'm supposed to go there for 3 weeks to write drills. You know, something they wanted done. I ended up there 7 months. You know, that's whenever they ask you to come to Metro Tech or headquarters, you know, you got, first of all, you got to have your replacement lined up immediately.
Hell yeah. Otherwise, you blink your eyeballs and you're there for 5 years, right?
Yeah, you can't get out unless you got to.
You can't get out. Yeah.
But while we were there, they were working on the books, so we were writing some drills, and I actually did a program which they really never followed through on. But we sent out a thing. I don't know if you guys remember it. What's your top 10 tips? We sent it to every firehouse on the job. And we made a week of drills where you would write out your top 10 tips. We got some of the greatest tips from companies in every borough. And we wanted to put it out. Like, this is what they do in 126. They put a ladder at the tip of the aerial, or, you know, Harlem companies or Bronx companies used to do that in case you needed to get on the bulkhead. Everybody had all these little tips. And that's not what we want. We want you to write drills on our existing procedures. I go, but look at all this great stuff. They never used it, which really annoyed me. But it was a great idea to have firemen tell you, here's how we really do the job. You know what I mean?
Maybe we should do like an old school tip of the day on this show.
I think we do that already, Coop.
Oh, we do. We didn't even know it.
Right. That's
was
the
a
point.
poet, didn't even know it.
Didn't even know it.
Meantime, we were also updating books. They were redoing all the books and stuff. I got involved. Remember citywide drills?
Yes.
I got rid of every citywide drill.
Thank God.
Every citywide drill. The ones that would duplicate information, we just got rid
Horrible.
of. Some of the other ones we just merged into documents where they belong. I got rid of every safety tip, every safety message. You would teach a fire tech, you go and there's safety tip number 6, safety message number 20, and it's all about car fires. How about you put them all in the same book? You know? So the chief of safety, Steve King, came into me one day. He said, "You have dismantled the safety division." You know? I said, "No, we put everything where it belonged. We didn't throw things out." And so that was great. And then 7 months later, when we were done, we did the Proby notebook. Do you know how many people laughed at us when we came up with the Proby notebook? And we sent the Proby notebooks to every battalion and stuff. And chiefs were calling us and going, "You know, these notebooks are just collecting dust on top of the lockers here. Do you really want us to do this?" And we're like, "Yes, we do." So those notebooks lasted a long time, you know. But you know,
Did you have a notebook?
Yeah, I had a notebook.
You had a lot of them. You had to sit on them.
You had to hide it though, because the senior guys got it to write all stupid shit in the book.
So that was why hey, Coops, that's a great point. That was why we used a black and white notebook with no numbers on the pages, so you could rip the page out and throw it away.
Yep.
That was
I thought it was a great idea, man. You know,
it was. The intent was to take the young, good firefighter who was really a good guy, but maybe he went to a C company or whatever, and now he goes to an A company, and they see this guy is A company material. Look at his notebook. Look at him at fires. And then we rewarded guys who had the top 5 notebooks to get their choice assignment where they wanted to go if they were in a C or a B company and stuff. So that was anyway, that went on for a little while. 7 months later, I'm out of there, and I mentioned to Chief Gansey, I really would like to. I like the 1st Division, but I really want to go to fires. where do you want to go, Jimmy? I go, Harlem and the Bronx. So I transfer up to the 6th. One quick fire story, though, before I got up there. I was in Lower Manhattan. It was a tropical storm. And it was 18 truck gets the run. They sent one engine, one truck, 30, 40 mile per hour winds. They get in the building, nothing showing on the reported floor. The roof firefighter goes to the floor above, and he sees smoke coming from an apartment. He says, the fire's up here. They transmit. There was no 1077 at that time, the 1075 and stuff. And anyway, 9th floor of a 26-story building. I pull up. I'm on the opposite side of the building. It's like a rectangular building. And the smoke is pumping out the window, like pushing really hard. But the entrance to the building was on the other side of the building. I go on the other side of the building and I see orange in like 4 windows. This was Vandalia Avenue all over again. That's what it was. And the only thing that saved them was the door to the fire apartment. The door to the bedroom that was going was burnt, but not all the way. So that held the fire back a little bit. And then the door that was open, the other apartment on the other side was at the end of the hall. So here's the fire apartment. It's not opposite. It was like at the end of the hallway. And the hose line went into that apartment. It got chopped. And then it came across to the other side of the building. So the flow path was not totally down the hallway. It was actually into that apartment, which kind of saved them. But anyway, the engine's getting burnt, and they run out of air. The truck takes over the line, as those guys, the chief relieved them, and the truck goes in and puts out the fire.
Wow.
And I wrote them up for a unit. And I got a little pushback, you maybe
I
shouldn't
could see how that could work.
Yeah. And I said, listen, the engine did a great job. Those guys got burned. They were there by themselves. They didn't have a second company. But the truck saved lives that night. So we wrote them up. They got the unit citation of the year.
Good.
Oh, shit. So you get another medal for that, right? That's the Bernstein medal, right? Or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that guy was right about the dog with the big balls.
Yeah.
Chuck's balls.
But I'm telling you, that was a hairy fire, man. And so many times there's firemen on the fire floor doing the job, making great moves. And the lieutenant, Gary Barrega was his name, an 18 truck. He saved a lot of lives that night. He really did. He did a great job. So I wrote them up. Then I go up to the 6th, and there was a training program. And they were, a chief went on a detail for a year. They didn't just feel it with the UFO. They wanted to train the young chiefs. So John Salker and I took a 1-year detail, but we split it 6 months each in the 17th Battalion, who at the time they're usually with 92 and 44, but they were quartered with Rescue 3 because they were working on 92 and 44's quarters. So, he did the first 6 months. I did the second 6 months. And let me tell you, you're sitting in quarters with some of these guys from Rescue 3. They were great guys, unbelievable. And I had we had a ton of work up there, but Richmond Plaza, 40-story buildings, and 2 4-alarm compactor fires. And I'm going to talk about the first one briefly. Back then, we used to get a lot of nasty compactor fires because the building code for the cover and some other stuff, there were things wrong with the way they designed these buildings. Anyway, this fire is a compactor fire. When we got there, it looked like you couldn't see the building from the outside. It was like 40 floors of smoke. And it was unbelievable.
I know, the compactors are crazy.
People are hanging out the windows and stuff. I remember the deputy was Jimmy Murtaugh. He said, I thought people were going to start jumping. So I'm the all-hands chief. The elevators are out of service already. Maydays, fire coming out the compactor down the hallway. Unbelievable job. And the guys, again, did an unbelievable job at that fire. The mayor came in. There was a bunch of 1045s. Nobody died. But it was right after Christmas. So it was in the compactor, right? all the trees and
wrapping paper,
diapers.
cardboard boxes.
So we get back to quarters at 2 a.m, whatever. We're there 4 or 5 hours, and I remember a guy from Rescue 3 saying, "Chief, you ever get another one of these again? Just get a line to the top floor and just pour water down the compactor shaft." You know, because it was fire literally on almost every floor. You know, we were fighting it floor by floor. Hey, we got fire in 18. Get a line here. We got fire in 22. He's like, you just got to go right to the top.
Well, what
So
happened was they would the drawers or whatever, they would stuff the stuff in there, but it wouldn't go down. So when it came up, it would just come out into the hallway. You know, really had nowhere to go, but all the smoke was out there. That's what they did most of the time.
It was crazy. So I had 2 of them. Then I was in the 3-5, and there was a 7th alarm on Steinway Street. Taxpayer job.
Oh, KB's.
KB Toy Store.
Holy shit! I remember that job.
Yeah.
I buffed that job. I was coming home from my girlfriend / wife's house at the time.
So I came on the.
Petey Brennan was there.
Petey Brennan had to go to the hyperbaric chamber after that.
Oh yeah, that was some job. I think Maddox might have been working for that too. I don't remember, but maybe not. I don't know, but I don't remember who had it. But I was in the 3-5 battalion. We went on the 5th alarm. Yeah, I think Maddox might have had it.
I think he had it
as a chief, and so we. I'm the staging chief. And I go to the staging area. There's nobody there. Nobody went to the staging area. So I walk up to the command post, and this is the 5th alarm, and the chief in charge goes like, "That building right there, that's where we're making our stand. I want you to go in there. You got an engine and truck on each floor. Relieve the chief." And yes, I go in. We're in there a half hour, 40 minutes. And, this is where we're making our stand. This fire is not getting into this building, and we're opening up. The smoke won't lift. It was burning in the flooring beneath us. We didn't know, but we got an engine. Anyway, but half an hour, 40 minutes, they go, "Okay, you come out." I go to the command post. "Okay, you're relieved." But I'm just standing there watching. And all of a sudden, fire lights up in that building. And they turn, they look at me. I go, "There was no fire when I was in there."
Not my problem.
We didn't do so good there, Coops.
We held it. We held it for 40 minutes. Yeah. And then my last.
That's a parking lot now, by the way.
Oh, is it?
It was a parking lot, unless they built stuff much later. But for years, it was a parking lot.
Okay, so you're familiar with that job.
Yeah.
So there was another big thing back then. The safety battalion chiefs, you needed special training to work in the safety battalion, and the safety chiefs, when they wanted comp time to take off, there was nobody to backfill. So 10 of us went to the Rock. We got 1 week of training. I worked 1 tour in the safety battalion, and it was August 28th, 1998. And I come in like 6 o'clock at night, because I think they worked 6 to 6 or something at that time. 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, second alarm, temple on Lexington Avenue, in Midtown on fire. And there was scaffolding all over the roof. They were working on renovating the roof. By the time we get there, there's like 20 lines stretched, towel ladders everywhere, lines from high-rise MDs, and I'm the safety chief. And all these, this is Midtown Manhattan, this is a big deal. All the politicians are there, and stuff. And there's this little young safety chief. And I go like, "Yeah, you want me to set up a collapse zone and stuff?" And they wouldn't even call me by my name. They're like, "Yeah, safety chief, set up the collapse zone, whatever." Every time it went over, they go, "What do you got, safety chief?" They're breaking my brakes. So finally, around 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and Patty Lee was there. You could ask him about this story. The command post says, "Okay, shut everything down. We're going to go in and take a look." Now I'm the only guy at the command post with a flashlight. So it's Commissioner Feehan, Chief Gansey. He's the chief of ops, I believe, at the time. Donald Burns. All these guys, legendary heroes who all died on 9/11. And a guy from the buildings department, and they're walking in and they turn around and they go, "Hey, safety chief, you got a flashlight? Yeah, come on in with us." So
flashlight got you in.
The flashlight got me in. Now we go in. And, we're looking at, and there's little pockets of fire inside the church because it was a roof fire, but a lot of fire got in the church and stuff. And they didn't want to break the windows because it's a church, you know what I mean? Sacred and all that. So I got all that. So they're just talking about like, maybe if we bring a hand line, like right here, it's safe here, right? We don't go in. We just stay here. We're in the nave or whatever it's called in the back, and I'm looking at him and I'm like, I don't know shit. I go, you know how fine and all.
I don't know shit.
I just like, can I just say one thing? You know how firemen are. The firemen are going to be like, hey, if we take 2 more steps, we can. I said, all right, safety chief, let's go up to the choir loft. So we go up to the choir loft and there's like a little window you could look through. And I was
at that job, actually.
Oh, were you at this job?
I was at that job. The more you're talking, the more I remember it.
Okay. So like we're the only 5 guys in the building. So they're looking and now they're talking, oh, what do you call that? Is that a truss or an arch or whatever? So they get the buildings guy, can you take a look at that? And, hey, safety chief, you got your flashlight? Yeah. So we stick our head out the window and we're pointing and I've got the flashlight and I'm looking at this thing and it snaps. And like 4,000 square feet of roof come down.
Oh my God.
And
Else first.
Wow.
we all dove to the floor because the
You know what
noise
4,000 square feet is, Coobs? That's a lot.
Man,
It's a lot.
That's a lot of square feet, bro. That ain't a fucking ceiling tile.
No.
We go outside and Patty Lee was like, oh my God, we thought all you guys were gone. You know what I mean?
Oh, shit. Stay out here, safety chief. Holy
I
shit.
shit my drawers.
The flashlight got me in.
Got you.
Oh,
Did you
my
take it
God.
in?
So anyway, now that last part of my BC life here,
Oh, my
I
God.
finally, I was on the deputies list and, I put in for 4 super busy battalions. I didn't make any phone calls. I didn't know anybody. So, I just said, hey, they know where I am on the list. They know I'm going to get promoted soon. Maybe they'll give me one. And I can tell you that Eddie Garrity stepped up. I had done a lot for the job and he told some people like, you should give him something, and everybody thought I had a hook. I mean, I guess you call that a hook, but I didn't make no calls. I get Battalion 16 in Harlem. I mean, there's a lot of great places on this job, but they were just so unbelievable that what these guys could do with fires. I remember a chief telling me years later, he said, you got a chance to see what some of the best firefighters on the job can do. And I did. I mean, Patty Brown was the captain of 69 Engine. Bobby Morris was the captain of 28 Truck. It was like working with Batman and Superman. You know what I mean? It was unbelievable. And Patty Brown would come in the office, salute me because he was a military guy. I'm like, I should be saluting you.
Yeah.
The chiefs were Kennedy, Cassidy, McKnight. I used to stay around just to listen to their drills. These guys knew so much, and one of the chiefs said to me one day, and this is going to be tip of the day later, but he said something to me about getting water on the fire. I'm going to tell that story later, when we get to the tip of the day. Kennedy taught me a lot at the command course. He always stepped up to teach things and stuff. And he talked about how to back out of a building properly. And years later, we wrote a document and it was everything Kennedy taught me. Another great guy up there, Joe DiBernardo. He was the commander. And I remember one night we had a couple of jobs. I jumped the gun a little bit. I asked for an extra engine and truck, maybe a little faster than I should have, And the next morning, he drove to my quarters, came up to my office and sat down and counseled me for like a half an hour. But I mean, like a mentor, like a friend. That guy was just class act all the way. I never forgot that. And like a guy does that for you. And then I was a division commander and I remembered that, how to treat people. You know what I mean? So those guys taught me about fires. They taught me how to treat people. Great experience. So now I make it to deputy.
You writing this down, Gonzo?
I'm taking mental notes right here.
I'm gonna take something.
Holy mackerel.
You know,
Guys mentioning the best of the best of the best.
Listen, Brooklyn was great, Queens was great, you know, the Bronx was great. I worked
No,
6
you
months in
can't change.
Manhattan, and I worked like 3 tours in Staten Island. You know, so I'm sure they're great too, but I just didn't spend a lot of time there. So for deputy chief, well, I was a BC studying, so I did like 7 or 8 months in the 16th. I almost turned down deputy. I was very close.
Wow.
I was having a lot of fun, and I was like, you know, I was close to turning it down, but John Salker talked me out of it. You know,
And what do you think now? Hindsight.
He wanted the spot. That's why.
yeah.
Roughy guys.
Spot. They didn't want another pay cut.
Yeah, John and I used to talk a lot. He's great. Another legend. Another great guy. So for deputy chief, my study group was Eddie Garrity, Steve Garrity, and Brian O'Flaherty. And Brian O'Flaherty was the captain of Rescue 1 for 10 years. And I was like, you know, as you can tell, I like to talk, you know. So I would do a lot of the talking as we were going through certain books. And this one book, you might have heard of it, Brannigan, was a book on construction.
Mm-hmm.
And Brannigan would refer to all these fires, and a lot of them were in Manhattan. So, you know, I would like explain what I thought was a good test point because the fire was in Manhattan. And I would look at Brian and go, did I explain that right? And he would just nod his head. Mm-hmm. You know. And
How's that job, kid?
Yeah.
you took the words out of my mouth. That's what he would say. Like 9 times out of 10, he would go, yeah, I was at that.
Yeah.
I would be like,
That's
are you?
crazy.
I go, did Brannigan call you to write this book?
Co-authored by
Co-author, yeah, exactly.
He was just an unbelievable. He passed away at 81 years old a year ago. But I mean, what another a great guy to learn from, and just, you know, captain of Rescue 1 for 10 years. They used to say, I don't know if you know this, when we talk back to basics, there was a picture they would put up of Ray Downey and Brian O'Flaherty, the captain of Rescue 1 and Rescue 2. And they would say, Garrity would say this. He would go, you know who this is? And the class would go, no. And he'd go, there's God talking to himself.
Nice.
Because they were the two, you know.
Oh, geez.
The two premier captains, you know, at that time in Rescue 1 and Rescue 2. Obviously, tremendous people. So, my first good job as a deputy. I'm working in the 15th. I got assigned to the 15th. Everybody thinks I got assigned to the 13th, but I got assigned to the 15th. I'll tell you how I got to the 13th and the 2nd. And we get a job like 6 o'clock in the morning. And he ate. I'll never forget it. It's like 9 degrees out. He forgets his jacket. He doesn't have his bunker coat. He's freezing, this guy, you know, and he could barely stand at the command post. Anyway, I get there. It's in 2 frames. It's going to a third. I give a second alarm. I give a third alarm. The wind is blowing the way it's going. And, you know, I thought we were going to lose the whole block. But, again, the companies did a great job. The officer in 236 was the first guy there. And it was a frame with a store on the first floor. The frame was like, the store was going. He goes up to the 3rd floor because there's a woman with a baby hanging out the window. And he goes and gets her. And 107 comes in and he stays with them. And they put the bucket up and they come out. So we wrote him up. And, you know, that's my first job. You know, right up, 3rd alarm. It was interesting. You know, there was plenty of fires in the 15th. I was working there with Jimmy Murtaugh, Charlie Blake, Ronnie Spadafora, Artie Messbauer, Terry Roach. I mean, again, all stars, all super guys. Anyway, in the middle of 2000, there was a move to improve Queens, you know, and they wanted to move some people around, make some changes. And so I was transferred to the 13th with Mike Weinlein, Bobby Sweeney, and Eddie Coletta. And we were brought to headquarters. They did the same thing in the 14th, and they did it with a lot of the battalions. And they told us, you know, They want you to straighten out South Queens. And I'm like, we got there, and these companies were great. They were doing a lot of fires, and we're like, what are they talking about? You know what I mean? I mean, there's always issues, right? There's always stuff on the job. But I mean, companies, I met guys from Brooklyn. They were like, Jimmy, these companies do a lot of work and they're very good. So like, but how did I use that to my advantage? I was there 22 years.
Holy
And every
shit.
time they asked me to go to staff, I go, I was told to come to Queens and straighten out the 13th.
I got a little more work to do.
They kind of pressure you to go to staff, don't they? Like my brother used to tell me the same thing. Kind of pressure you to go up to staff chief. He liked being in the firehouse, so he never went.
They, there's a little bit of like, you need to do this,
Give back to the job.
Get back and all that. But I was 43 years old when they asked me. I'm like, I'm going to stay here for 22 years in 9 Metro. And I wasn't ready.
Right.
I spoke to Murray Tor, who was very senior chief. He said, just keep telling him you're not ready. You're not saying no, you're just saying I'm not ready. And then there were other factors, family and stuff. So, but I was asked 5 or 6 times, always like a gentleman, no big deal, but I volunteered for everything. I said, I'm not coming to headquarters, but I was in the BC command course. I put together with a bunch of guys, the deputy command course. Anything they asked me to do, I did. So I gave back in my own way.
Right.
That's a pretty long, I don't know many chiefs that were in one spot for that long. Like, what are some of the chiefs that that were in a spot over 20 years? Like, that's not a common thing.
Maybe Vinny Dunn. I don't know. I don't know. At the deputy level, at the battalion chief level, it probably happens a lot.
Yeah, that'll happen more, but not at deputy.
At the deputy level, the only way that can happen is you got to get there before you're 45, and everyone has to leave, which happened because after 9/11, Wineline, Sweeney, Coletta, hey, they all went to staff. I was the last man standing. So that's how it happened. I ended up staying there, and that's a few years later. But Maines eventually became the borough commander. That's Bobby in the middle. Ferran he was in the 14th a long time. He was. I
was going to say he was there a long time, but I don't think he was there 20 years.
No.
Well, he was the commander 16 years.
Was he really? So maybe you're right. Maybe he was there.
I'm working him hard, Chief, trying to get him on.
Yeah, because John Acerno was the division commander and was asked to go to Queens. And that's when Ferran got it, and that was 06, 07.
Yeah, right. And so maybe you're right. Almost 20.
Yeah, Mark was probably there almost 20, but he was commander for 16. I was commander for 20 years. And Mark's famous quote on Medal Day, when we went to the coalition was, Queens, twice the work, half the commute. So,
listen, I got to say, Chief Ferran, like there was, when I was in the squad, when I pulled up and, things looked a little silly, when I saw him there, it was a comforting thing. You know what I mean? And I would go, but he was just so businesslike and so easy to talk to as soon as you went up there to see him. It was just such an easy thing, and it really was. He just oozed confidence.
Yeah. His other big saying was, "All right, guys, let's act like what did he say? Act like we've done this before."
Yes,
that's what he used to say. I sent him the shirt that we had that said that.
Yeah.
Act like you've done this before.
Yeah. No, that's Mike Stackpole used to say that in 133. Act like you've been here before. If you're screaming or whatever. So 9/11. I want to talk about 9/11 a little bit. So 9/11, it was 6 weeks before the lieutenant's test. And I was supposed to teach. I was teaching that week in Staten Island. And Tuesday was always the first class. And 9/11 was on a Tuesday. And, and I looked, it's 6 weeks before the test. And I was looking over my class the day before. I had like 5-6 mistakes. So I left early because I wanted to get up, put a slide up. These questions are all wrong. The guys in Staten Island, I don't know if it's the water they drink. I don't know what was something weird out there, but they're very hostile. Tuesday was a tough day to teach in Staten Island.
Any day would be a tough day.
Yeah, when you get Friday, you got all your mistakes cleaned up. You got your whole act down. But Tuesday was tough. So I'm going over the bridge around 5 to 9, and I see the smoke, the Verrazano Bridge, but I don't know a plane hit the bridge. And I'm like, oh my God, it looks like some job or whatever. And I'm thinking it's a roof fire, an upper floor fire. I don't really know. I get to the Libetti post in Staten Island, and now they're telling me when I get there, no, two of them got hit. I'm like, are you kidding? So I was trying to call, Chief Murtaugh, who's, was the head of the business, the owner and stuff. I couldn't reach him. Phones were out of service. And Mike Masucci told me this years later. He said, you got up in front of the class and you said, America is at war. Go to your firehouses. I don't remember saying that. He goes, that's what you said.
Really?
So, yeah. So guys left, went to their firehouses. I got to the Verrazano Bridge. It was closed. They're like, you can't go across. I show my deputy chief ID. They go, okay. I'm sure they did that for all the firefighters, but I'm going across the bridge. There's no one on the bridge because it's closed. And then you're traveling on the belt. I'm trying to get to the 13th. The cars were just piled up, stopped, people sitting on their cars, all watching because you could see the smoke, and while I was driving, of course, both collapses happened. Anyway, I get to the division. So, the gravity of what's going on now. They say there's a staging area at Cunningham Park. I go there, and there's 3 buses, and there's a chief there. He goes, that's, Battalion A bus, Battalion B bus, and he hands me the clipboard and go, and that's Battalion C bus. I don't want to mention it. As I hand him the clipboard back, I go, that's the 13th Division bus. I'm not staying at staging. I gave him the clipboard back. I go, you're staying at staging. So it was a pretty cool ride in because as we're driving in on this bus, the people were trying to give us water bottles. Everybody, it was just unbelievable the way the people reacted. Yeah. Got there around noon. Obviously, ladder 6, the whole thing that was going on with Jay and everything. And the first staff, I get off the bus, the guys go one way, and the first staff chief I meet goes, there's a Mayday in Stairwell B, Tower 2, ladder 6. You get me a report on that. I'm like, I don't even know what Tower 2 is, let alone as you're walking down the block. But, Ferran was on it, Visconti was on it, 53, 43. There were so many people on it. So I just went to Hayden and worked with him for a long time. And you know what? That was a day where you saw the leadership of this department. I was a young deputy. I did whatever they told me to do and stuff, but these guys were on it. And they were concerned about safety, but they were concerned about saving lives. I was at a little meeting. Again, I wasn't saying much. I never forget Terry Roach looking at a couple of chiefs and going, get them out of building 7. Terry Roach was a deputy chief in the 15th. He knew it was construction. I remember him saying, this corner of the building is gone. That building's going to collapse. They pulled him out. A couple hours later, 7 came down, So I remember going, wow, this guy really knew his stuff. Not that the others didn't know.
That building was roaring too, man. That thing was going.
Yeah. There was a lot of fire in that building. Never figured out why that building collapsed. Totally, A lot of discussion. But
I've heard that.
Yeah. So we saw 7 come down. I started asking people, like talking to people, was Garrity working? Yes. Was Oreo working? Yes. I finally asked, was Brian Sweeney working? We talked about this, Louis, before and everything, because he was my Proby in 263. Yeah, Brian was. I was like, I don't want to even ask anymore. Like everybody
I forgot that too, actually.
Yeah.
It's so funny how time goes by. You forget all these, Yeah.
And I actually helped Brian. That when they formed the squads, you had to have 3 years. And Brian didn't have the 3 years. But I was working for Gansey, and I went, this kid's great. And they put the 3 guys were, I think, Iope, Thehan, and Sweeney. They were the 3 guys that got in the squads with less than 3 years, but they were all great. So that one hurt. They all hurt, but, that one hurt me a little bit. 3 a.m. The president of the UFOA, Jack McDonald, walks up to me. I'm working with Freddie LaFamina now. And Freddie's like explaining to me how everything is going to go because he was in, that was the big terrorist act in Oklahoma. when they knocked down the building there.
Mhm.
And he goes, this is going to be just like Oklahoma. I remember Freddie explaining to me. And I mean, all the steel workers were there. They were cutting steel. It was like by 3 a.m. It was like almost organized, you know. These guys really knew what had to be done. But Jack McDonald walks up to me with a piece of paper in his hand, and he goes, Jimmy, we lost like 340, 350 guys. And I'm like, how do you know? He goes, we called every firehouse. We got the list. Now, remember the list that came out was a little bit off?
Yeah, it's a little off because Louie and I were on the list.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought Nikki was even on that list too.
Nikki was on the list too.
Yeah, I remember that. And then I remember hearing, oh, no, he's out and stuff. So that was interesting. The next day, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., Harry Myers comes over, Mike's dad. And he just started with the Chiefs, and he started coming over to us because some of the companies were taking up. And he goes, how long you been here? 20 hours. How 20 days? Go home. We're like, we can't go home. They go, no. He goes, you can't stay here forever. We got other people coming in. Just go. So now, walking up West Street, like, how the hell am I getting home?
Right.
Nothing's running. There's no buses. There's no subways. There's no nothing. So I found 150 truck. How you guys getting home? We don't know. We grabbed an ambulance and asked them to take us to Queens. The guy goes, I'll take you to the Brooklyn Bridge. We go over to the Brooklyn Bridge, and he drops us off. And there's 2 buses there. One's got a bus driver in it. The other one's empty. So I looked at the guy. I go, does anybody know how to drive a bus?
I love it.
Let's go.
What could happen?
We did the old borrowed without asking permission.
Yeah.
We borrowed the bus. We gave it back.
Where'd you park it? At the division?
Behind the division.
That's great.
And then we gave it back. You know.
I love it.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it was an act of war, right? So you do what you got to do.
Yeah, hell yeah. We got to make this work.
So, you know, we didn't get hit that hard in the 13th. We only had lost 3 assigned members. One was Stack, who was in the safety battalion, but assigned to the 5-0, Ray York, and Lieutenant Tony Jovic from 270. He was covering lieutenant in the 13th, but in 279 that day. But, I mean, all the other divisions were hit really hard, which led to, you know, like we were down there was the AB chart, the ABC chart. You're down there constantly.
Yeah.
And then it changed. The companies from Manhattan and Brooklyn really wanted to be there because it was their guys that took the biggest hit. So you didn't go down there that often. But then in April, I'll never forget this. They said, we need some volunteers. So I volunteered. We went down for a month. And 3 o'clock in the morning one night, they call me because, you know, whenever you found somebody, but it was so rare to find somebody or whatever. They call me, Chief, come. So I go over, and they had a helmet, and they had bunker coat laying, and it was where a lot of dirt had piled. The whole body was there. And you could see it was a guy from 22 Engine, but we didn't know the name, but we had, you know, the helmet and everything. We called him up. They go, yeah, we're missing one guy. Tommy Casoria, God rest his soul. They go, we know who it is. They got the family. We didn't touch the body until everybody came down there. It was very, you know, great way that was handled.
Respectful
and stuff.
for the boys. Come get their guy.
Yeah, we waited. Remember, that was a big argument in the beginning. Who's going to move? You know, when we found somebody, you know.
Come get your guy.
Yeah. So, but we waited. So, but anyway, that's 9/11. At the end of 9/11, the following year, September of 2002, the UFOA had just won a lawsuit to have deputy and battalion chiefs test because they were trying to make it one test. And they asked me, can you write the test? You know, Nick Visconti came to me. He said, we won this lawsuit. We got to write a good test. I went, okay, I'll do it. You know, I'll do anything for Nick Visconti. You know, he was another legend.
Sweetheart.
Yeah. Great chief, great everything. So Paul Farrow, John Bly, and they went down. We wrote the deputy's test. Everybody thought it was going to be the hardest test ever. You know,
I wonder why.
Hard. It was hard,
but not unreasonable.
But it was fair.
Right.
It was fair, and there were harder tests after that. Believe me. So we drew the line, and then private dwellings. I got these. I just want to mention this quick. Mark Ferran, Steve Brown, and I were all picked to rewrite private dwellings. And private dwellings was written 3 times in my career. And the big fire was the cellar fire.
Right.
You know, the original rewrite was in the 90s by Pete Hart and Steve Garrity. And they had the thing for the straight line colonials where you could use the side door if the fire was small or medium. Then there was a few bad cellar fires, and they went, nope, every line has to go through the front door, no matter what, which was problematic because we went to some ripping jobs where, you know, we worried about collapse. Guys going over the fire, they can't find the cellar entrance and stuff. That went on for a long time. And then they did some studies on Governor's Island. Remember the Governor's Island tests and stuff? And they found out something that, like, I don't know, it took a long time to figure out that if you put water on the fire, that's a good
Imagine that.
Goes out?
It goes out.
Holy crap.
So
It takes the anger out of it.
Technology, the innovation.
As Chief Kubler would say, takes the anger out of it.
Yeah, so they let us rewrite cellar fires. They wouldn't allow it for the first and second floor. So we rewrote the cellar fires. And, you know, the other big thing we wanted to rewrite was that the engine and truck had to stay together. You know, you can't have the engine going one way and the truck doing their own thing. It's like we want those guys together. So that's a big deal. Then 2003, the blackout. I worked that tour. I worked a lot of weird tours, man. 4:00 in the afternoon, August 14th, 2003. The blackout lasted 29 hours in New York City. It was I looked this up the other day. The biggest blackout in U.S. history.
29 hours?
Ohio, Michigan, New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, Quebec, 50 million people.
Wow.
And I was working up and down. It was 91 degrees, according to Google. And around 6 o'clock, it started at 4. We're trying to get a handle. Nobody knows what the hell happened. It took to like 7, 8 o'clock to realize the whole East Coast, you know, Northeast was out. And it was hot. We went to 8 jobs that night. I don't know if you worked for this one, Louis. There was 25 jobs in the 15th.
No, I was Eddie Curley actually worked in 103 that night. I think he got a medal that night too. He made a grab.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, we only had 8 jobs, but that's 8 jobs is a lot. But I love telling this story. So around 6 o'clock, the Queen CO used to be, you know, over on Woodhaven Boulevard. I said, let me go down to the dispatchers, get a handle on what's going on. I call him up. Yeah, come on down, Chief. So, you know, I'm a buff in some ways, but I don't know everything about the job. So I go there. I hadn't actually been there before. I'd spoken to them, but never been there. Anyway, I go in and I'm walking around each guy and I'm going, you know, hey, how you doing, Chief Didomenico? Yeah, hey, 134. Hey, how you doing, Chief Didomenico? 115. I'm like, what? Their dispatch number.
Dispatching numbers, right? Yeah.
They don't have names.
No.
And finally, somebody said, that's their number.
This is Queens 324.
Exactly. None of them would give me their names. They just gave me their number.
Yeah.
Time now is 1824. Correction, 1825. This is Queens 324. He was the best.
That was funny. Gonzo, you got the picture of the high rise with the wind? Yeah. So there's a quick story here. I'll make it quick.
It doesn't look like we did good here either.
That was Rockaways.
Yeah, it's gonna taste like shit.
Let me tell you something. That was some job. The wind was like 30 miles per hour. Fire was on the top floor. Well, no, the floor below the top floor. And when you went in, it was like a 300-foot hallway. And when you went in the apartment, if you made a hard left, you go to those windows you see right there. But that's not where the fire was. If you think about it, think of it being at the last apartment and you went straight, that's where the fire room was. And so the fire room was on the water. Do you see the water in the background?
Mm-hmm.
And the wind was blowing like 30 miles per hour. The roof man told me when he dropped the curtain, it just sucked into the building and didn't move. The only thing was the guys on the fire floor didn't know that it was wind impacted. The chief had his hands full. He was trying to direct the curtain to make sure it was dropped. So, you know, I just want to emphasize communication. You know what I mean? The chiefs down there are overwhelmed. They're by themselves. The old hand chiefs don't get in for 20 minutes, but nobody got hurt. I'm telling you, the guy from 121 that dropped that curtain saved firemen's lives that day. You know? So that's a specific fire. We got that picture from a woman across the street.
Oh my God.
Yeah. woman across the street gave it to you. See the wind velocity, right? Left to right.
You could see the church steeple there. That's how high she is, for God's sakes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was pretty interesting for you. Then one or two more. And then, we'll be close to the end. Superstorm Sandy, I'll just say another tour.
You're working for that too? Holy
I worked for that one too, Chief.
Working yeah, we used to call each other Louie and I and go, you work there. Drop me off.
Tell your family, keep an extinguisher near the bed or something. My God.
I came in at 1:00 in the afternoon because relieved the chief that, had to get home. He had a boat in the water and he had lived on the water. He had to go and things were bad already. We had a job at 4:00. It was super windy. And then like 6:00 at night. So this is a hurricane coming in, right? Remember they called it Frankenstorm? That's what they were calling it because it was on Halloween or right before Halloween. They were calling it Frankenstorm.
Right.
Yeah. And the year before was Irene, which ended up to be nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
That's why everybody stayed.
Like
me.
That's why everybody stayed in Rockaway. They were like, "Screw this! I'm not doing this again." Evacuate.
What happens?
Yeah.
Down here.
Yeah.
So we're on a conference call.
Gonzo
with
knows that.
Chief of Operations, Chief of this, the guy from Fleet Maintenance and stuff, and we're debating at 6:00 at night. Okay, how much water is too high for us to go through? And I still remember, the guy from Fleet Maintenance saying you can't go to more than 18 inches and stuff. And the borough and the chief of ops was like, listen, we got people hanging out windows. We're going to do what we got to do, So what wind speed will we not put a towel ladder in the air? There was no answer to that question. You know what I mean? It was like, we got to do what we got to do. So they did. Let me tell you, the guys in Rockaway, we couldn't get in. There were multiple jobs in the Rockaways where we went down. It was like 4 feet of water on Cross Bay Boulevard. We tried to go in the back way. It was like 3-4 feet of water. Some companies knew back roads and got in, but I mean, if you drove through 4 feet of water, your rig was going to be out of service and you were done. So we ended up on the Cross Bay Boulevard in a planning vehicle. There was a job in a private dwelling, fully involved, but luckily it was the last house on the block. We just evacuated people. Volley Chief calls me up from the Rockaways because they got the Breezy Point volleys. He says, I just saw 329 leave. I hear they're going to Brooklyn. I go, yeah, there's going to be 5 feet of water in the firehouse. They can't stay there. He goes, who's going to put out the fire if there's a fire? Yeah. And there was a 5th alarm in Breezy Point. What
a mess.
Yeah.
That was a shitstorm.
It was unbelievable. And so now we go on the belt because Maine's orders 16 rigs to the Marine Parkway Bridge. And he gets on 255's rig because he's the borough commander. And somebody said, we know every bump. We'll get you into the Rockaways. And he got through. They never stopped the rig. And then he gave the order, no rigs. And he knew we were going to lose every rig. It was like 4 feet of water. So everybody got sent back. We left an engine, a truck, and a chief there until the tide came down. It was crazy. So now I'm making my way back on the Belt Parkway to go back to Cross Bay Boulevard. And the debris going eastbound, you couldn't drive. So some cop stops and says, listen, the westbound, which is the way we came, just drive the wrong way on the westbound. There's nobody on the road. So we go back and exit, and now we're driving. And you've been on the Belt Parkway. It's like hills.
Mm-hmm.
And my aide was this guy named Keith. Used to work where you work.
Tree?
Yeah.
Oh,
Keith N. Oh, no, Keith Didomenico. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was good. I kept saying, stay to the left, because every time we would get near a hill, you'd see lights. Like there was a straggler car here and there. I mean, we drove like 10 miles the wrong way on the belt, but there was only 3 or 4 cars. But afterwards, we were like, that wasn't too smart, So,
Yeah, what you gotta do.
Anyway, that's that. I want to talk about 2 more fires, and then we'll do the end. 6th alarm in Richmond Hill. Gonzo, you got that picture?
Coobs, another one. Maybe not so good.
Oh, maybe not so good.
Well, at least there's a double yellow line on the left side there. That's good.
Yes. So this came in. There was
like,
an ABC, it was an ABC working in the 5-1.
Holy
and at that time, the books said the division doesn't go until they give the all hands doubtful, right? But the wind was 30 miles an hour with 50-mile-per-hour gusts, and I'm listening to the radio and I hear 4 addresses, smoking this one, smoking that one. When we got there, because we went before they even gave the all hands, it was firing 4 buildings in the cockloft. It was a very delayed alarm. I won't even go to why it was delayed, but every time the companies would make a move and knock down fire, the wind would gust and drive them to the floor. And I gave 4 alarms in like 20 minutes. And
Wow.
the roof was getting really bad. And the guy came from the last house on the block, which was 6 houses away. He goes, "Am I good?" I go, "Yeah, we'll never get down there."
Famous last words.
That Murphy guy showed up again.
About
Yeah,
a half hour
did.
later, we're like, "Hey, bro, you got to get out of that."
Remember what I told you would make it down by you? Yeah, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Hey, Chief, I wasn't working for that one.
You know
I was
what's
working
funny?
at 288 that day. We didn't go though.
Oh, you didn't go?
First 2 should have been 142 truck. They were at the Rock for subway training.
Huh.
They don't have a subway in their district. Okay. So 6 o'clock at night, Danny Kruger was in 142 at the Rock. Listen,
Kruger!
second alarm, third alarm, fourth alarm. Anyway, 6 alarms. We special call an additional truck for overhaul. And Kruger comes in a special call truck. And he walks up to me. He goes, "You're kidding, right?" I go, "Sorry, I didn't know it was you." You know, but you know, great thing we did at that fire I want to mention real quick was plain speak. I mean, there was 12 buildings going, and there was no exposure 3B, 3. It was like, "Chief, we need a line in the red house. You see the red house? You know, yeah, the yellow house. It looks like the yellow house is going to light." The last house on it, we were using all sorts of plain speak because it was crazy. So, and then the last fire is the 7th alarm on Liberty. That one there's no picture for, but that one I had in 2017. That was another one. I'm sitting in the office, 11 o'clock at night. It's like 11 degrees, banking a tour, you know, and all of a sudden we hear, you know, fire reported in the store, 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, it sounds like work, right? Maybe, you know. And now we get a second address. You know, now it's the second store. Then the third, that 4 buildings on fire. Like, let's go. We didn't even wait for the 1075. We pull up. The first progress report was we have heavy smoke. We're looking for the fire. That's not a good progress report, right? I pull up. The smoke is coming out of the building like a tornado. I mean, like, I cannot believe. I'm like,
Just a little turbulent.
Yes. And all I'm thinking is I don't want anybody on the floor above. And 143, I go, because that's who should have been up there. I go, "Commander 143, what's your location?" "Floor above, Chief. We're doing a search." I go, "Get off the floor above right now," because there wasn't a line up there yet. 10-4, 5 seconds later, Mayday, 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 143 came with a Mayday. The room lit up. He was trapped. And, you know, 126 was a fast truck. I put them to work. We got a line up there, but he PSS'd out of the back of the building.
Wow.
He did an unbelievable job. Unbelievable. Now, talk about training, right? That guy had done the PSS 5 times that year. And the whole room lit up on him, and he was able to bail out. So that shows you the report of training. Anyway, I'm 3 alarms in. All right. I got Ralph Longo, 127, pulling up, and he's asking me what he can do. He's like, you know, go to 3B, 3C, you know, set up your rig and stuff. And the chauffeur of Rescue 4, Richie Schmidt, walks up to me. And he just puts his hands on my shoulders and goes,
Gorilla
"Chief."
hands.
Yes.
Dude, that guy's big.
"Chief, you got a big problem." I go, "What's the problem?"
You got a big problem.
He goes, "You got multiple propane tanks in the back that their relief valves are dumping. Fire's blowing 20 feet up the back of the building. It's all frames. You have no idea how many buildings on the foreside are burning where these propane tanks are going off." I'm like, "Holy shit." "All right, Richie, thank you for the report." I go, "Do me a favor, you know, go up to the roof and, you know, take control of that. Let me know," like, because that guy was a Superman. Yeah, another great fireman and stuff. Anyway, you know, I gave a 4th alarm and a 5th alarm, told the whole 4th alarm to get to the rear. But you know how far away they are? You know, we got lucky. We got lucky that one of those tanks didn't levy. I had guys in 6, 7 buildings doing searches. And sometimes, you know,
We get lucky. There's no doubt
yeah,
about that.
sometimes you get lucky. You know, we found a couple of those tanks the next day. My aide gave a report. The guys were breaking his balls next day. We got 17 lines stretched. Somebody came up to him and go, "Did you count the lines? Like, how do you know there was 17?" He said, "I just made up a number." You know, Woznicka comes in, and he comes to the command post. He just waves to me. He tells the field comm or the resource unit, give a 6th alarm, wait 2 minutes to give a 7th alarm. We went to 7 alarms. We were there all night. Then the guy PSS is the next morning. The 4-4 has a guy do a life-saving rope rescue.
Wow.
The guy who was my resource unit leader, John Donahue, made it back in time. We released him for the job. So we were all over the news. We had a guy PSS and we had a rope rescue. It was a great, great night. So, all right. So a couple of things in closing here. I had a guy say to me, you know, you gotta mention some people. All right. Otherwise, they're going to call you up. So there are just a few notables in the Chiefs rank I want to mention. First of all, Howie Carlson. Gonzo, you got that picture in the kitchen?
Mm-hmm.
It's a 308's kitchen.
You know,
Guy like in a. So Howie was a great friend.
do we have? Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, we do.
Yes,
There you
there's
go.
Howie in the middle.
There he is.
There's Jerry Quinn on the left. Some guys from 308. There's me sitting, and this is Howie's party when he retired. A strange thing happened on Howie's last tour. Howie was in the 5-1. And I don't know how this could happen. The odds are like 1,000,000 to 1, but Billy Carlson ended up the aide that night.
Oh, it's amazing. It's crazy.
It's
Never heard of him.
Yeah,
Just
Howie
work
used
out
to,
some ways like that, you know?
Howie used to always tell the story. He told a lot of stories, but Howie used to talk about when he was in 120 truck, and he used to say, the senior man there, a kid would come up to the firehouse and say, you know, when I grow up, I want to be a fireman. And the senior guy would say, well, you don't get to do both, you know? So anyway, you got to think about that for a second.
I know it.
So that was Howie. Did anybody know Howie?
I did. I knew him from the Steuben day.
Well, you know, the original was that the dispatchers would say, Queens to the 5-1, we're loading you up. You get 3-2 in the Carlsons.
Yeah. I said that, yeah.
Because Howie was the dispatcher.
Yeah. I used to love sitting and talking to him, bro, because he would just tell fire stories.
Unbelievable guy.
His son doesn't like to talk that much, though.
Oh, no. Billy? No. He's a real quiet guy. Very quiet.
Billy was great.
I
had a few battalion chiefs, I'm going to be quick, that I call my voices of reason. You know, like when you get one of those problems where there's a lot of politics, how are we going to handle this? So you call somebody who's not involved, you know, Pete McGrath, Rocco Rinaldi, when he was a battalion chief, Steve Brown, George Healy, Gary Esposito. Those were the guys you go, let me run this one by you. It's not in your battalion, but, you know, and those guys were just, you know, you got to bounce things off people, you know, and say, because you're getting a lot of emotion where the problem is, right? So you got to talk to somebody outside the problem. And Jerry Quinn, of course, was in that group. As far as the deputies go, I like to describe, I remember I was there for 22 years in the 13th, and I was the commander for 20. It's really hard to do that because you got to get promoted. Everybody's got to leave. You got to get promoted young, and then you got to stay. You got to resist all the calls for staff. But the first wave I mentioned before, Wineline, Coletta, Sweeney, myself, and Hay, and they all went to staff. And then from 2003 to around 2009 was me, Rupp, Paulie Ferro, who went to the UFO later, did a great job there. Maines, who was he ran the incident management teams. He ran New Orleans. Bobby did a lot of great stuff. Then he went to the borough. Jimmy Daly was there during that time for a little bit too. Then the third regime I call was me, Clark, Joe Cunningham, Danny Brown, and Jerry Migliori. You guys know Jerry?
I don't know him personally, no.
Yeah, he was 217 as a lieutenant and captain. I did fireman in 236, 175. Then he was in the 5 2, I think, and stuff. Anyway, he gets promoted to deputy. He comes to the division. Now, everybody I did mutuals with was like, you know, oh, well, my kid's got a game. My wife's got this. My wife's working. You know, all right, I'll take comp time. Neither one of us can work. Jerry was the best mutual partner ever. He'd walk in. His kids were older. I go, Jerry, what do you want to do the next set? You're the commander. What do you want to do? I'm like, best mutual partner ever.
Golden.
Yeah.
You were golden.
Yeah. So it was great to be with a guy that had older kids. And then finally today, it's Brown, Healy, Didomenico, and Spoot. So those are like the 4 regimes that when I was there. What's the common denominator? Me.
Me.
I was there. A long
I'm the
time.
guy.
Yeah. And while I was there, I went through 9 borough commanders. I used to say, I see borough commanders come and go.
I'm done with this guy.
What was it like with the squad in quarters over there?
I'm going to answer that in 1 second. Just the thing on the borough commanders. They were all great. But the best, in my mind, you know, was Sweeney, Acerno, and Maines. I mean, they just understood me a little better. But they were all good. But those guys were great. The squad. I thought the squad was great. I got along with the squad great. Initially, when we got there was a little bit of, you know, how should we use them?
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things they did. Tommy Richardson was there. I'm trying to remember who the other lieutenants were. Doug Sloan was lieutenant. Jimmy Earl and Chris
Rigaldi.
They were the original. They were great. Squad's a great company, but the problem you have in South Queens is a lot of small little private dwellings, you know. But over time, they did what we said, and they were good. You know, very good. I got along with squad great. Me personally, a lot of great firemen there, a lot of good friends there. One more thing, chief of personnel, because if I don't mention them, you know, between fire tech, but also being the division commander, the chief personnel was a critical guy. You know, you want to get this lieutenant, you want to get this captain, you want to get this guy to spot. You know, you're not talking to the chief of department. So he was like the go-between. So you had Moriarty, Mike Galla, Tony DeVita, and Masucci, and they were all great. You know, it was great. So before we get to the tip of the day, last thing, because I don't want to keep you guys too long, the rewrite. I noticed you put the rewrite of the regs and stuff.
I have it here.
I'm going to keep it brief. The regulations, I still remember Jake Lamunda saying we had to present the new regulations to the UFA and the UFOA because regulations is an important book. And I remember Jake Lamunda saying at the meeting, like to everybody in the room, like we've all been a victim of the regulations, you know, because they were antiquated, redundant, old language, conflicting language. You know, we had throughout the book, there were things like first aid is CFR, you know, checking equipment was conflicting with what was written in the books. You know, there was the fire prevention liaison and fire prevention coordinator. One guy said, let's go with coordinator. I go, why are we going with coordinator? He goes, nobody knows how to spell liaison. Let's get rid of that. liaison. Nobody knows how to say it. Nobody knows how to spell it. You know, payday roll calls. There was so many things like no one does this. There was just like delete. You got to remember when the fire department first started writing tactics, they wrote them in Regs 11 and WMYFs. There were no books.
Right.
So we took like 12, 13 pages out of chapter 11, which had stuff about engines and trucks that was old, antiquated, or redundant. So we just got rid of all that stuff. You know, leaves. I said to Chief Richardson and Lieb, who asked me to work on this, I said, why are the leaves in the regulation? I go, some of the leaves are in the regulation. Some of the leaves are in the page. So we took all the leaves out of the regulation, you know, and we redid the page. The hydrants, there's a whole bulletin on hydrants. So what we had to do was get rid of stuff that was redundant and stuff. We must have taken 70, 80 pages out. But when we were done, the next administration came in, we were issuing it. They go, whoa. You can't change the regulations without us looking at it. Okay. So we gave it to them. They read every page. They changed nothing.
Wow.
They changed not one word. So we did a good job.
You've done
And
good.
listen, I had a ton of people helping me, that were overseeing to make sure we weren't writing something wrong. Paids real quickly. Remember, Paids were 12 of 67.
Yeah,
I said to Richardson, Richardson, I go, in 2067, somebody's going to go 12 or 67. Which 67 is that?
Yeah.
And people there, was like, what paid is that? One of 96 of 02?
They skipped. They revoked so many that there was just so much gaps from year to year to year to year. It was ridiculous.
So there's 10 paids now. I'll just go over one of them. It's because it's quick. Leaves. Paid one is leaves. You want to know about a leave? Look at paid one. It's in alphabetical order. So as a lieutenant, as a captain, you can find things. You don't have to go, I have no idea where this is written. Where's jury duty? Where's and all the language was old. It was the medical division instead of BHS and on and on. I could go on with all the changes. So we got that all squared away. Safety bulletins, we did the same thing. There were like 92 safety bulletins, all with the revisions, right? You want to tell a guy how to drive the rig, read safety bulletin 6, 23.
23, all right. It was like 5 of them you had to watch.
49. And so we made safety bulletin 2. 8 chapters on how to drive the rig. All the firefighting went into safety bulletin. We made things easy to find. We updated them to modern stuff. I could go on and on with all the changes. It was great. It was great. And I'm actually still working on changes today. I'm helping one guy who took my place. His last favorite one with the changes. There's a AUC that we're about to change. It talks about if you're a relocator and you get to the firehouse and you don't know the combination, the first thing you do is go to the outside phone and call the dispatcher.
How do you get to the outside phone?
No, not the inside. They mean outside the firehouse. They meant the street, the pay phone.
Don't have no pay phones anymore.
There's no pay phones in the can we revoke this? So all right.
Now it's time.
Is it
time?
time?
I think.
Is it time?
It's time.
It's time for
Tip of the day.
Take it away,
All
Chief.
right.
I got 2. The first one is just a basic thing about training. The second one's the main school tip of the day. But I told a story after 9/11 about, if you're a Yankee fan, there was a play in 2000 where Jason Giambi's brother, Jeremy or something like that, was on first base. The Yanks were winning 1-0, and there's a ball hit down the right field line. And, the right fielder throws the ball over the cutoff. And here comes Derek Jeter from shortstop running across the field. You remember this play?
Mm-hmm.
And he gets the ball right on the first base line, flips it to Posada. They tag the guy out. And he interviewed Jeter after the game and said, what were you doing there? How did you even think to go there? And he said, we practiced that play all the time. That's the only time that play has ever been made in history, but it helped them win the World Series that year. And I tell guys all the time, there's a lot of things that you're going to do maybe once in your career. You got to train. You got to practice, So that's one tip. But the more important tip is the one I passed over before. The chief in the 16 came to me one day and said, Jimmy, you're a young chief. You're going to be at some fire one day, and there's going to be 15 things going wrong. He says, you get water on that fire, and all 15 things will get better. So, that's my tip of the day.
Short and to the
Water
point.
makes everything go away, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be careful how you do it, right? But
Chief, you didn't see the thing in the background behind me?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I have noticed that.
Sorry.
Anyway.
I hope I didn't go too long.
No, you did perfect, Chief.
No,
Great.
that's great.
Excellent. Appreciate you coming on. Anybody have a shout out? Guns? Anybody?
I don't got nothing.
No,
Nada?
I don't know. Did you hear from the person you texted for Thursday?
Yeah, I have to call him tomorrow.
Okay.
Oh.
So
I didn't know if we had to announce it, but okay.
Do we have another commercial now? No.
Oh yeah.
No,
Look
wait.
at you, man. Coops. I mean,
look
Coops.
at you.
Look at him.
Shut
Get a
up.
nice. Here we go, man. I'm slacking. Here we go.
The First Responders Center for Excellence is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to protecting the lives and livelihoods of first responders. Their education and research initiatives aim to bring greater awareness and understanding to the challenges to the health, safety, and well-being of firefighters, EMS personnel, and other first responders, too. They are an affiliate of the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation.
All right, and the old school health and safety tip for tonight is number 11. It's firefighter health and wellness is important for ensuring the safety and effectiveness of firefighters. Post-incident rehabilitation is a critical part of the process of assessing and addressing physical health needs. I like that.
I like those apples.
I like them apples.
I like them apples.
Chief, it was a pleasure.
I love the stories. Excellent job. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys giving me a little extra time. So,
Oh, not at all.
I'm sure my wife is sound asleep now. So
tough to stick 40 years at the 2 hours. That's for sure.
Oh, when you're in, bro, especially a career like that.
I was very blessed, very lucky. I'm healthy. A lot of great people before me, that I worked with have had health problems and, passed away and stuff. So we every day's a blessing, guys.
That's it.
Get yourself checked out. Early detection, Chief.
I will tell that. And I know the senior guys know with the guys that are retired, but when you get retired, man, it's go to the doctor, eat a little less, work out. You got to take care of yourself. So
that's it. All right. So we may or may not have a show Thursday. We'll find out tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
And that's all I got. Ruffy, I'll see you. You're going hunting, so you won't be back until when? Talk to
Next Wednesday.
So we have a show for that following Thursday, though, right?
Correct. Yes.
And who is that? Do I know?
I believe that's Tompkins. That's Larry Tompkins. I believe that's Larry Tompkins.
Yes, sir, it is.
Oh, look at you guys. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, until we meet again, you know what I like to say. Stay low and go. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you for the honor. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Chief. We'll see you at the big one, everybody.
All right, guys. Have a great night, everyone.
And Chief D will be there.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Good night, everyone.